morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy birthday. If you're listening to this later in the year, Merry Christmas to you. I don't know, whatever is applicable for you. So you have stumbled upon yet another fun and exciting and enchanting episode of Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. My name is Dan.
And I'm Frankie.
And we're here to enchant the pants off you. I don't know why I said enchanting. That's kind of a bit rich for us, isn't it? A couple of dorks that just talk about movies. We don't enchant anyone.
Nah.
No, I'm sorry. I was just on the spot trying to think of adjectives and that one came to me. So, yeah, well, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to try and use the word enchanting as much as I can throughout this enchanting podcast tonight. So, yeah. So anyway, how you doing? How have you been? What's happening?
I've spent quite a bit of money recently in the Prime Day sales.
Oh, yeah. What'd you get?
I have bought a bunch of movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't surprise anybody.
What may surprise some people, because it shocks people to hear this sometimes. I love Hallmark movies, and there was some Hallmark sets on sale, and I bought 3 of them, which equals 24 movies.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of Hallmark.
One was a 12-pack, and the other 2 were 6-packs. So,
nice.
Yeah, lots of cheesy romance. One of them is not cheesy romance exclusively. It just has, I didn't look up her name, Lacey Chabert?
Chabert, yeah, I think that's how you...
Yeah. She's one of the Hallmark regulars, so there's a 6-pack just for her, and when I was reading about what they were, some of them are just like straight drama type movies. The rest are romance. I got a Peanuts collection of
cool.
I think like 6 or so. It's all the holiday things.
Yep.
I bought some 4Ks. Crybaby.
Excellent.
Which I'm kind of annoyed that we just watched it for this.
Yeah,
and I still got my old DVD copy because it's not streaming anywhere. And so I was like, I could have had the 4K, but it's still on the way. And then I got War of the Worlds, the Tom Cruise one, because I love that film.
Yeah.
And Train to Busan and Annihilation, which are 2 films I didn't already own for some reason.
Yeah, right. Look, here's the thing. I know you sort of said, not a lot of people know this about me, but, I spent money on Hallmark films. Look, in the last episode, I confessed to the world that I bought Crocs. So whatever you say that you bought... Yeah,
this is not the level of Crocs.
Yeah, you could say on the Amazon...
I just meant surprising movie taste to people. I'm not, admitting a shameful thing.
Yeah. Like, you could have gone on record and said, in the Amazon Day sale, I bought napalm and, assault weapons and everything, and I'm going to, take it to the nearest school next time I can and, just annihilate a bunch of people. People would be like, that's pretty horrible, but Dan bought Crocs, so, yes, let's just forgive her, okay? Let's just say they had it coming. Wow, we've already got a school massacre in the first part of the podcast, and we're not even 5 minutes in, so... Yeah, people know what they're getting themselves into.
Well, let's go back to happy movies. I also
probably a good idea.
Have, I think, the first Blu-ray I've seen for a Fred Astaire movie. Until Indicator, I think are releasing one in a couple of months. But Silk Stockings I saw, which I haven't seen yet, but any Fred Astaire movie on Blu-ray, I'm going to grab it. I'm still waiting for someone to do a box set of his and Ginger Rogers movies on Blu-ray. Maybe it will happen. Oh, that's right. I've got another Hallmark one, so add 6 more to that. I saw it later.
Yeah, right.
I have bought, as a horror fan, I thought I'm going to fill this gap in one of the big horror franchises that everyone hates.
Leprechaun.
And no.
Oh.
Hellraiser.
Okay.
So I have a box set of 3 to 8.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to watch them. Because I know everyone hates them, but
drink coasters.
a franchise I haven't seen. It was on
Yeah.
sale. It was cheap.
Look, a couple of years ago, I thought, yeah, look, I hadn't seen, I'd only ever seen the first one. And so I thought, yeah, look, I should watch the rest of them, you know. So I sat down and I started, so I went through, I think from memory, the second one was pretty good. I think the third one, if I remember correctly, was passable, but you know, you could tell it was starting to run out of steam from there onwards. Well, because they actually, what they would do is take, they would like buy scripts from people that had nothing to do with Hellraiser and throw Pinhead and the Cenobites in there and turn it into a Hellraiser film. So, and that irks me when people do that, you know, like occasionally it can be done well, but most of the time you just know that another franchise is being shoehorned into a script. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what you think, but I couldn't even finish them. I think I got up to like the sixth or something, and I was like, you know what? I just can't do this to myself, you know. I was about to say I have too much self-respect, but I bought Crocs, so yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
we'll see. It was cheap, and you know, I've watched
yeah,
some
fair
bad
enough.
franchises in my time, so
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
can make it through eventually.
Well, look, it's also one of those things. I think you need to see them in order to talk about them. You know, like
Yeah, well, that's the
yeah,
thing. I'm slowly working my way through the horror franchises, which reminds me, I'm going to try and finish Halloween perhaps this
okay.
October because I got up to the one with Paul Rudd.
Whichever that
And
one
I
was.
don't know if there's one more after that. And Halloween H2O, which I did see when it came out, but I haven't seen it since. And then I did watch the more modern ones, but of the
Yeah,
kind of original run, I was
yeah,
so
yeah,
over it by the time I got up to that one that even Paul Rudd couldn't keep me going.
yeah,
But I've
yeah.
had a break now because that was the October before last. Maybe it's been that long. I don't think it was last October. That seems
Right.
too recent. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't
Anyway,
remember.
so yeah, I might do that just because I don't like to leave it so close to being completed, and then I
Yeah,
can say I've seen them all. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
so that's it. I did buy two other movies that weren't specifically Prime Day deals, but I finally got because it was cheaper. The Criterion of All That Heaven Allows because that went in my wish list as soon as I had watched it, and I hadn't bought it because it's Criterion, so it costs a lot, but it was a bit
Okay.
cheaper, so I
Yeah, yeah.
splurged. And I was looking on JB and I saw Lisa Frankenstein, and I was like,
Uh,
"Yay! There's the DVD. Where's the Blu-ray?"
exactly.
Yeah, and so
We
I was
got
like, "Well,
stiffed.
I saw the Blu-ray online, so I'll import the Blu-ray." And then when I went looking, I saw there's also a 4K.
Right.
So I got the 4K. It wasn't on special, but I don't care. I just want it now. So I got that. And then I got some books. I got the third in the trilogy that I can't remember what it's called, but by Richard Swan, fantasy trilogy. That's very good.
Yeah.
The hardcover was on special, and I have the hardcovers of the first two.
Okay.
And Mary Oliver is a poet I like. She does what I've read is all kind of nature and animals and stuff. And they had some of her books on special, including one of essays. I don't even know what the essays are about. I assume it's similar. It's a picture of a forest on the cover. So, and then a book about Douglas Fairbanks
Right.
that his niece was involved with. That I did a quick Google and apparently has tons of photos and stuff in it.
Okay. So
So
essentially, what you're
yeah,
trying to tell us is you're now broke.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Well,
hey, it's tax time.
yes, yes, that is
So
true.
my tax return will cover it, so it's
Well,
fine.
I've bought things as well apart from Crocs, but not movies. I bought toys and kitchen appliances. So yeah, no, in terms of toys. So look, I am not going to delve too deeply into this because I'm going to sit here talking for 3.5 hours. But the greatest to me anyway, the greatest comic book story ever written was Batman Nightfall from 1992, where, in a nutshell, it's the story where Bane wears Batman down to the point where he can barely stand, manages to break his back, takes over Gotham. Then a psycho named Jean-Paul Valley, aka Azrael, becomes Batman but goes crazy, turns the Batsuit into like a walking armory with, like, shuriken launchers on the wrists and all this sort of shit, actually kills somebody. And so Batman goes through this period of recovery where he's got to then eventually take back, the mantle. Christopher Nolan adapted it into The Dark Knight Rises, of course, because, there was a scene in that where Bane breaks Batman's back and, all that sort of thing. So it was loosely adapted into that. But that story since the early 90s has meant so much to me. It's, I've always said it's kind of like, Christians have the Bible, in order to inspire them, and that sort of thing. Whereas to me, Nightfall is also a work of fiction. But to me, that is kind of my inspiration, because like when I go through times where it's like, things are overwhelming and I've got to sort of push myself through, I just sort of keep remembering scenes from those stories of Batman just, fighting to stay conscious enough to beat various villains and stuff. So yeah, it really inspired me a lot. So McFarlane Toys, which is the company of Todd McFarlane, who created Spawn, they released a Batman and Bane 2-pack, which I have proudly on my desk at the moment. And yeah, it's now I sort of, have like a visual inspiration now. It's like right there I've got, Batman with his wired cape so you can pose it in the most dramatic ways, standing there facing up to Bane. And it's just like, I can just look at that and I'm like, damn right I can overcome odds, So yeah, so I think that was not a frivolous expenditure, because it is motivation for me. But I also bought a proper coffee machine. Now, I'm sure a lot of people listening are coffee drinkers. Let's face it, it goes hand in hand. If you're a movie lover, you're probably a coffee drinker. So yeah, we found a proper cafe-style barista machine, with the handle with the scoop that you like clip in, and it's got the milk frother and, the steam thingy, like all those gadgets on it, which we got for half price from JB Hi-Fi. So that arrived today, and I'm a little bit happy because, when you're trying to raise newborn twins, coffee is your best friend. So yeah, I'm working out a way that, the thing that sort of drips the coffee into the cup, I'm trying to work out a way that I can just get that onto like an intravenous drip. Just, pop it into my arm, just keep it running, like just feed it into my veins. Yeah, kind of like Bane with his Venom system, where he pushes a button and a tube of this thing goes into his head and he becomes like that. Yeah, that's a visual thing I'm showing you now.
It probably doesn't
yeah.
help that whenever I think of Bane, I think of the Harley Quinn animated series Bane, because that's all I know. That and the Nolan movie, but
I know.
I mean, that wasn't especially great either, and I don't really remember him specifically.
Yeah,
so I just think
yeah.
of the cartoon.
No, it's kind of crazy because there was a Batman Nightfall radio drama that came out of the 90s, and you got to sort of hear what Bane sounded like, and he kind of had like a South American kind of an accent, because that's where he was born and raised, in a prison in South America, sort of South America. And he kind of had no, that's Bongo.
Yes.
I will break the Batman. Like he sort of, actually, fuck, it was Bongo. He actually sounded like Bongo. I'm gonna have to revisit that and just have a listen, because yeah, I'm skeptical now. Yeah, and then of course, all the subsequent things, like, yeah, just like, man, that is so not the character, but it's that version of the character, so, But speaking of the Harley Quinn series, have you had a chance yet to watch Kite Man Hell Yeah episodes 1 and 2? No,
I
haven't.
completely forgot about it. It's been one of those kind of weeks, so you have to keep bugging me until I remember.
Oh,
that
believe
it
me, I
exists.
will. I was literally sitting there the night that it was released, because I think it dropped at midnight on the Wednesday or Thursday night. Wednesday night? And I remember I was sitting in bed, like looking after the kids, like because apparently they need feeding and changing and crap. And yeah, looking after kid. I was like, resting the kid and stuff, and I just happened to go on. Oh no, that's right. I looked on Facebook, and on the official Harlequins page, like yeah, they announced like, yep, it's now available and everything. I'm like, and so I jumped onto Binge and had a look, and yep, sure enough, the first two episodes are there. And I'm sitting there, of course, Kylie's asleep next to me. It's after midnight, and I'm like, damn it, because I can't really watch it without her, and I'm sort of like, oh, this is really, really frustrating. But the next morning when we got it, yeah, it was like the first thing we put on, and oh my god, yeah, you need to get onto this. It is now, what high esteem I hold the Harley Quinn series. Like, for those uninitiated, I have seen the first season 7 times, the second season I think 5 times. Like, I am obsessed with that show. So when I say that Kite Man Hell Yeah is every bit as good as the Harley Quinn show, that's high praise. Yeah, it is amazing. And it's one of those shows that, like, after 2 episodes, I am so hooked and cannot wait to see what happens next and everything. So, yeah, no, definitely worth checking out for anyone who is a fan and wants to see more. And yes, so of course Bane is a regular character in this show. Harley and Ivy do make a brief appearance in the first episode, which we all saw that one coming. But yeah, Bane is a main character though. So yeah, because obviously being a fan favorite. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
What about Dr. Psycho? No.
He has not shown up in it, nor has Clayface or anybody.
I can hope.
Yeah. But no, because this is Kite Man's show, so
Yeah.
I think it's just a treat that we got Bane in there, but yeah, so yeah, no, very much enjoying it. So yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, should we? What's the format of this show? Do we talk about our movies, or do we get into the question?
I think the question first, and then we just do movies for the rest of time.
Yeah. So we've luckily look. I tell you what, everybody out there needs a friend like Nobbins. Because not only does Nobbins like send us random presents and stuff, being just the most amazing person that he is, but he has also once again come up with an absolutely amazing scenario / question for this week. So if you recall, 2 weeks ago, Nobbins came up with this idea of a witch had cursed us and we could only watch one film from each of the last 5 decades. Or, yeah, I think that was right,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah. Which was, terrific question. So he's once again saved us from having to think of something for ourselves because, let's face it, who wants to do that? So here's what he's come up with. The witch is back, and she feels bad for cursing you a fortnight ago, so she's bearing gifts. He didn't say that. I just threw in a witch's cackle. She says that she has arranged for your own movie to be made and released. You can pick 6 actors, a screenwriter and director, and they will all sign on. As she has superpowers, you can choose your crew from any of their eras. She can even bring them back from the dead if required. The budget is unlimited. All you have to do is pick your crew and come up with a plot synopsis. So that was the question that he put forth to us. Now, you then came up with something like 35 different questions and caveats, and can it be this? Can this happen?
Well, yeah, I just asked important questions like if you bring an actor back from the dead, do they have to be the age when they died, or can you pick from any time during their life? It's an important question.
It is an important question. Oh, look, when I say 35 questions, this is because you're meticulous and thorough. It's not like, it's not a bad thing by any means. Now, so when Nobbins posted that question the other day, look, my life is very busy right now. The twins just turned 2 months old yesterday, so they're still a lot of work. Plus, I have my job and everything else going on around me and stuff. So I thought of my answer roughly half an hour before we started recording.
Yeah, and
Whereas
watch him come up with something amazing now
no,
after
no,
saying all
no,
of
no.
that.
Whereas you, I've been very jealous of the fact that you've been like keeping us up to date with like, oh, I've got 7 actors instead of 6, and these people go together, and I've got this person, this is happening, and you've just got so much going on with this thing, and I actually envy you because I wish I
Well, you got
had
to
more
learn to
time.
multitask because I was planning stuff while I was doing the dishes last night, and then I was thinking about it some more while I was at work. So just any time I had a free bit of brain space, I was considering what I had decided or what I could do. Like, it took me all doing the dishes to go through my scenarios and figure out which plot line would work best.
Tell me you've never had twins without telling me you've never had
Yeah, but
twins.
if you're just like feeding and holding and getting them to sleep and whatever, like surely you can think about stuff while you're
No, I'm
doing.
not kidding. Like, there is a lot involved
What
with
about when you're laying
children.
there to fall asleep? I did that too.
Yeah, I'm trying to fall asleep. I don't want to think of anything because with those 2 to 3 hour windows that I get, I
You
no.
think about it while you're falling asleep. You don't
Hmm.
like stay awake to lay there and think about it.
Yeah, but I'm a guy. I think about boobs and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, and cats
what's your problem?
and coffee machines and Bane and Batman and
Okay.
yeah. Anyway,
Anyway, I'll go first before you come along and just like have this amazing idea that you thought of in 10
no,
minutes.
no, 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 not at all. Mine is very much just like cobbled together at the last minute. It's yeah. Oh, guess what? My tax return just hit my bank account.
Oh, I still haven't done mine yet. I'll get to it.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought I'd announce that in the middle of a
Yeah.
movie-related podcast, but there you go. I am freaking rich. I wonder how many Crocs I can buy with that. Anyway, all right. Well, who should go first then?
Oh, well, I just said I
I'm
will
nervous
because
now.
then
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to
Okay.
have to follow your brilliant outcome.
Come on. No, yours is going to be so much better
So
than
I
mine.
have I have two scenarios because I've
Mm,
kind of got stuck with, do I have this character or do I change that character to be this other character and do a bit of
mm,
a shuffle of a couple of people?
right.
And I wasn't sure which one to go, but basically if I shuffle, it allows me to put an actor in that I forgot about originally,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of, he would be perfect for the role,
Mm,
and I can still, he's kind of replacing someone that I can still keep the same if I get rid of the original. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so
okay.
my original thoughts at first was I wanted to do one of the other things of this is you can film it in any time in history as
Right,
well.
right, yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
everything, time is
Mm,
whatever,
yeah.
open. And so originally I was going to do like some kind of heist movie set, like, you know, being
Mm,
filmed in the late 60s or early 70s.
mm-hmm.
But then I thought of my main actor and I thought of his personality, and then that changed it. And then I'm like, no, it has to be a kind of action adventure kind of
Mm.
plot, maybe something a bit dark along the lines of Jurassic Park or something where
I'm actually
it's a good
surprised you
mix.
didn't go with a horror film, I must admit.
No, that didn't come to mind.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair enough. I
Well,
seriously
it
was
might be connected to my actor, maybe.
okay. Yeah, right.
So I don't know how to.
Mm.
I don't know if I should do all the plot stuff first or
Yeah, do the plot stuff.
introduce the actors.
Yeah, yeah, no, do the plot stuff.
Okay, so there's people on a boat, like a kind of charter boat, to
Mm-hmm.
travel to this island, and stuff happens on the boat, and
Oh.
they end up being like shipwrecked,
Mm.
but way off course. So they end up on this uninhabited island,
Mm-hmm.
and then they. This is in the 90s as well, so there's no cell
Mm-hmm.
phones or
Of
anything
course.
because
Yeah.
we don't
Yep, yep.
we don't want internet and whatever. We want it to
Mm.
be back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
so they the captain's one of the people, and he's like, yes, fine, they'll come looking for us tomorrow, so we'll just have to spend the night here. and whatever. And so they're hanging out on the island, and then one of them disappears
Oh.
and is dead.
Oh.
And so then it becomes a thing like, did one of them do it? Is one of them not who
Yeah.
they seem? Did they do it? Or is there someone else on this island that they don't know about?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
is there something else on the island they don't know about? And
Oh,
was it
that
an
is
accident that the
cool.
boat like sunk and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, straight. I don't even care who was in your movie. I would go and see that one. And do we get to know what if it was foul play or whatever?
Well, no, the writer hasn't written it yet, so
Ah, right, right, right. No pun intended. Oh man, because I really want to know now.
I'm not a writer. I can't come up with these things. So I've just
Oh,
got the
fair enough.
ideas, and then someone has to write the
Yeah,
best
yeah, yeah.
outcome. So I'll just go into that now. So I don't really know writers. I don't really pay attention unless it's writer directors. So I had to go looking at a few things to see who wrote them and what else they wrote and
Oh,
if I knew those movies and everything. But I
wow.
kind of picked a director first, and then
Yeah.
I noticed that they have teamed up with a writer for a number of films. So I was
Okay.
like, well, that works out. They can work together again.
Oh, so you've picked Neil Breen, who is also the writer. So it's Neil Breen and Neil Breen. Like, that's who you've picked, isn't it?
Sure. So I'm going for this dark thriller island movie with either evil people or evil other things. So I'm going to pick David Fincher to
Nice.
direct,
Oh, yeah.
who
Perfect.
works a lot with Andrew Kevin Walker.
Yep, yep, yep.
So I will get him to write it, who, for those who don't know, has written movies like Fight Club, Seven, The Killer, The Game, Sleepy Hollow, Event Horizon, Stir of Echoes, Brain Scan, 8mm, and I haven't seen the other ones. So yeah,
Did he write Event Horizon?
it's coming up here.
Okay, wow. Well, I must have known that because I'm obsessed with Event Horizon, but yeah, wow.
He
Okay.
co-wrote it with Philip Eisner.
Yeah, Philip Eisner, yeah, okay. No, wow, cool. Well, there you go. I actually don't know if I did know that. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Cool. Because yeah, no, Andrew Kevin Walker is, well, just from the films that you've mentioned, of course, is yeah, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, well, that yeah, you're very much intriguing me with this film now, of course. So
Yeah. Okay, so my
yeah,
characters.
yes,
So this started with my captain, because if I can pick anyone from any time to be in a movie, then I'm going to pick Douglas Fairbanks
oh, of course you
because
are.
I'm obsessed, and I didn't even know who he was until last year. And he's a big deal, but I had no idea. And so I thought, or maybe there's a few other people who have no idea who he is. And so I have this book about him, of course. And so I'm just going to read you this thing from an introduction where they talk about how, he's not just like a forgotten person, but there's a lot of people who didn't even know him in the first place, and they should. So listen to this.
Go for it.
He deserves our attention because although we do not recognize it, he is still here. When we settle in once a year to watch the Oscars, it is because he co-founded the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. When we see the latest release from United Artists, it's because he formed the distribution company that gave independent producers a venue to sell their works. If we enjoy The Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind, we likely don't realize that the man who directed those films got his first chance as a director from Douglas Fairbanks. When we drink in the glories of Technicolor, we do so because his intervention saved the company. When we think of Beverly Hills as the place for the rich and famous, it's because he bought and remodeled a hunting lodge and moved into it when the area was nothing more than scrubby hills. When celebrities navigate the depths and shoals of fame with grace, it's because he and his equally famous wife established the pattern. When we try to get a tan in the summertime, it's because he made being dark fashionable in an era when paleness was a virtue. When we see Superman put his knuckles on his hips and assume the hero's stance, it's because the young artist who first drew him based the character's bearing on that of his hero, Douglas Fairbanks.
Yep.
When Batman goes to the Batcave, it's because the creator of the comic strip drew his inspiration from Fairbanks' The Mark of Zorro. And when we see Mickey Mouse, particularly in the early years, it's because his creator wanted a mix of Douglas Fairbanks and Doug's best friend, Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and he has the nickname the first king of Hollywood because of all the stuff that he did.
I did not know that.
And so he's known as for mostly for his, swashbuckling movies. He did a Robin Hood. He did the Zorro films. Mm-hmm. I first saw him, and what made me instantly obsessed was The Thief of Baghdad. He's really athletic. He's really happy and exuberant. He's known for his laugh, which I just heard for the first time this last fortnight because I watched the first talkie that he did. All the other things I've seen have been the silent things. Mm-hmm. So what better guy to have for the captain of this charter boat who just loves the ocean, perfectly fine being shipwrecked on this island. He'll be like, yeah, it's cool, he knows all the ways to get by and keep things going. So yeah, he's the captain.
Mm-hmm. Who else you got?
So one of the crew survived as well. Mm-hmm. Have to put him in. Mm-hmm. And it's a horror thing for this thriller-esque movie. Kyle Gallner, he's he's the hot young guy, which is for a reason, or for more than one reason.
I actually reckon he did it. I haven't
finished yet.
No, I just got a
so he's a bit sketchy. He's got that, he's a bit indifferent, doesn't really care about people, just, had the job because he just, reasons. So, because Carl Gallner's got that, he can do that look that I like. That's the, the, what do you call it? The alternative look,
Yeah.
Not alternative, but I don't know. I can't describe it. Guys that just are a little bit, like the hot bad boy kind of vibe. Yeah. Okay, so there's a posh couple on...
Disenfranchised, would that be the word?
I don't know.
Okay. Now I'm thinking about French fries in a dish. Never mind. Keep going. Please, quick.
So there's a posh couple on the ship.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm just... You meant to think that Carl Gallner's character did it because of obviously, but it's one of the posh people because they always get away with murder. So, yeah.
Okay, so the man is David Hemmings. Mm-hmm. He's another favorite and has the look that's perfect for playing a posh guy.
Yeah.
So I'm taking him from the early 70s time, early to mid 70s, which is around the time he did Deep Red. And Juggernaut, and his wife. I was struggling to think of the wife because I don't really have a plan for her character so much. So she might be the one who dies.
No, she manipulated him into doing it.
So I just kind of went, you know what? I'm just going to go with the person I pick if someone asks who's the most beautiful actress who ever lived.
Margot Robbie.
Grace Kelly.
Oh, for fuck's sake! No, actually, look, that is a fair call. Yeah, I would even if I had to choose between those two, even I would be like, oh, wait a second, I need to think about this. Yeah, good choice. Yeah. Oh, and she totally manipulated the husband into killing whoever died and framing Kyle Gallner. Oh my god, I can't believe they did that. Anyway,
so they have their daughter with them.
Oh my god, the poor kid. Wow.
Who is, say, 17, 18 or so. Mm-hmm. Who is played by Robin Tunney from the 90s.
Yep.
Because
with or without hair?
She with hair, because she's a posh daughter.
Yeah, of course.
But is she really that posh? Because she's looking over there and she's seeing Carl Gallner and thinking, oh, he's a bit hot. So is she really a bad girl, just trying to look like a good girl?
But then you've got that added element that the mum and dad are murderers, and they framed it like, oh my god, this is blowing my mind. Wow.
And so originally I had Carl Gallner just as sketchy guy for the thing, but I moved him into the crew role so I could have proper sketchy guy, like full on Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
From the early 90s.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s, right in the good time. So I haven't worked out a story for him, but he's just, you're stuck on an island with him and there's weird stuff going on.
And
maybe you don't want to go off alone with him anywhere.
Yeah, because you left obviously thinking, what is more weird, the stuff that's going on the island or Brad Dourif? Like, which, it's like, actually, you know what, Brad? I'm just going to go off into, like, the murder jungle for a little while. You just stay here and keep eating the campfire. Or whatever crazy people do. I don't know.
And finally, we have the kind of comic relief character. Who...
Pauly Shore.
It's not Pauly Shore.
Damn it! Imagine like a movie this dark and serious, and you've got
Pauly Shore and Brad Dourif sitting around a campfire.
Yes! Oh my god! Can you have 8 people in your film, please? No. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, you're gonna have to Google this probably.
Oh.
So I picked a comedian actor who's only been in 2 films, and I've seen one of them. So I'm basing all of this on that one film. Dwayne Perkins. And that's D.E. Wayne.
It's what,
Perkins.
sorry?
It's spelled D.E. Wayne Perkins.
Oh, I see.
The Blackening, and search The Blackening. That's the film he was in. I loved him in that film. Yeah, that's why I said Google, so you can at least see him.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he was really funny in that. So, so he missed going with his friends to the island that everyone wanted to get to. So he's... and now he's shipwrecked, and so he's missing out on all the fun stuff that's happening with his friends. So he's just like kind of annoyed. But he's thinking for anyone who's seen The Blackening of that kind of same personality as in that. Yeah. So
it's so funny. As soon as you said he's kind of annoyed, the picture I looked at is of him standing there with his arms folded, kind of looking like, eyes up, like face down, eyes up, like with a frown on his face, kind of thing. Like, that's so funny. Okay, wow, see, this is what I mean. You've thought so much more about yours than mine. I know you were worried that mine was going to be like, blow yours out of the water, but get it? Because shipwreck. But yeah, no, mine will not.
Yeah, and so there is the thing, because I was thinking of the boat being caught in bad weather, but it has to be pretty bad to go really off course to end up at this other island. But then also for everyone to be shipwrecked and not be able to do anything because there's completely no boat, it's like, did someone destroy the boat purposefully? Like, would it have survived the bad weather? Is Brad working with Carl Gallner? Is he have they got a thing going?
I've got so many
what's
suspicions.
happening.
Seriously, I'm still reckoning that.
Who is David Hemmings? What's his deal? Why is he there with his family? So all that stuff. And David Fincher to keep it dark and thrilling.
Well, funnily enough, I did actually look up what the deal was, because I was amazed that I had no idea Andrew Kevin Walker had anything to do with Event Horizon, because, as we've discussed in our Event Horizon episode, that movie is just like, oh my god, it means so much to me. So I just looked up in the IMDb trivia of Event Horizon, and it says Andrew Kevin Walker wrote an uncredited draft of the script. Some of it ended up on screen, and one sequence was cut from the theatrical cut, where Captain Miller, Larry Fishburne, upon entering the Event Horizon, finds a ripped-out tooth floating around. Other scenes appear as storyboards on the special collector's edition when Miller's crew is introduced for the first time on another rescue mission. On the DVD documentaries and commentaries, director Paul W.S. Anderson said he regretted having to delete these scenes, but they didn't help the film's pacing. So, I think that's why, because I don't think it's really been discussed much about Walker's involvement, but that was very interesting. Thank you for educating me on that. All right, well, my shameful thing that I've now come up with, which is it's going to take me like a minute 37 just to rattle through this, and then we're done. So I didn't have a title for mine at first because I didn't, like you said, it was the writer's job. But then something came to mind, and I was like, oh man, that actually sounds pretty good. So my film is going to be called The Gateway Chronicles. As far as directors go, it's probably going to be no surprise whatsoever. I've picked James Gunn. Only because, not because, I'm obsessed with his work, but this is kind of a dark fantasy sort of a thing. And, Gunn's got that kind of sort of surreal weirdness about a lot of his films, especially his sort of smaller indie films and stuff like that, especially like his earlier sort of short films and stuff that went on YouTube, which were just absolutely bananas. I mean, this guy started working with Troma. That's how he got his break into the industry. So I'd kind of like to see some of that sort of weirdness come back. It's going to be written, and it seems like I'm doing a big comic book movie team up here, but I'm going to get Christina Hodson to write this, who of course wrote Birds of Prey and The Flash, and is just, to me, the greatest writer working in Hollywood today. I just, anything this woman does, I will be happy to see. So I would love to see her handle this thing to get that balance of drama and suspense and comedy and everything, which I know that she could do. So my plot, and I don't really know how, I was kind of thinking, what could you do that would combine a whole bunch of genres, like horror and sci-fi and adventure and fantasy and, all of these sort of things. So my plot is about, so a young girl's brother goes missing, and she finds out that he's been taken by a dark magician into a fictional realm. I don't know why, but, that's up to Christina. So she follows some clues that leads her to a library where whichever book she reads will transport her into that world, of that book. It's kind of, a magic library. So with the help of a librarian, she's able to follow clues in each story that is going to, lead her to the book that is going to locate her brother, in which, of course, she has to, I guess, defeat some kind of evil in order to rescue him and stuff, because that's how things go. So yeah, that's essentially the plot of my film. So the girl's going to be played by Angourie Rice, who ever since The Nice Guys, I have just thought this actress is phenomenal. Are you familiar with
No.
with her? Okay. She's 23 now, so we would have to sort of go back in time just a little bit, but like when she was in The Nice Guys, like she was probably about the perfect age there, which was, I believe, 2016 that film came out. So yeah, I would love to cast her. She just kind of has this real sort of a innocence about her, but also like a lot of sort of youthful energy. She had minor roles in the recent Spider-Man films as well. In high school there was like the newsrooms, or the high school newsroom kind of thing that was going on.
I don't remember that much detail.
Yeah, well, she was in that anyway. Like, yeah, whatevs. And she's also Australian, so I'm keeping it homegrown. So as far as the other people, the magician, the evil magician, is going to be played by Keanu Reeves. Because that is a guy, like, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking of all these typical, people that could do villains and stuff, and I'm like, no, hang on a second. We've seen Keanu Reeves be bad, and like, to me, he was never worse than he was in The Gift, the Sam Raimi film, where he was just terrifying. Like, he was really scary every time he was on screen. So I would absolutely love to see him in that role. I just think that would be so much fun. The librarian, I was coming up with a whole bunch of actors, and I was like, it could be a female, it could be a male, I don't know. But then when I was looking up actors, all of a sudden my eyes gazed upon Christoph Waltz, and I was like, Oh man, I love that guy. Like he is so, he's got this kind of quirkiness to his performances and everything. And yeah, I was sort of imagining like, yeah, you could sort of see him in a role trying to help this young girl, find her way through all these story realms. So I got her. Then look, I mean, I had to narrow this down to like 7 actors, but there's gonna be a lot because there's gonna be, so many different worlds that this kid has to go through and stuff. So I've just picked a few main ones. For the sci-fi element, the main character in that is going to be played by Nathan Fillion because if you ever, he's the go-to guy for, sassy, fun kind of space adventure people. Need I say more? For the twisted dark horror realm, we're bringing back Vincent Price because, as I've said before, he is one of my most favorite actors of all time. I just love everything that man does. And even though, a lot of time you sort of see him in roles where, well, even non-horror roles, he's sometimes sort of the nice guy in horror films, but I want him to be, pretty dark and nasty in this film. So, yeah, so we're bringing him back for that one. I was kind of thinking of other realms, and I thought, okay, let's go for a medieval one because I love medieval stuff. And I was kind of thinking, like, okay, a rugged sort of a actor who could, be the guide in that realm. And I just suddenly thought of someone who you would never associate with medieval films, and that is Al Pacino. Because he's another guy who I just absolutely love his style of acting and everything. And I thought, well, if we're going to be able to cast favorites in this one, heck, I'm putting Al Pacino in a freaking suit of armor or whatever, like, as sort of this very gruff, seasoned, knight or something. So, yeah, so I'm putting Al Pacino in that role. As far as the brother, we're casting young Freddie Highmore in that because he's just so adorable, like everything that he's ever done. Yeah, he's just when you think of child actor, you think of Freddie Highmore straight away. Well, I do. Shut up. So yeah, he's in that, but that's only going to be a fairly minor role anyway, because he's not in it too much. But yeah, so that's the movie that I came up with. But you definitely won that round. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're probably both pretty cool, but yeah, I like yours a lot. So,
Yeah. If only we could time travel and make directors do what we want
I
and
know.
have unlimited funds.
Yeah. Oh, so as far as the idea that I initially had, because there is one project that I want to see come to life more than anything on this planet. And I kind of segued it earlier when I was talking about buying toys, and that is Batman Nightfall. Because that story was in 3 parts. There was Nightfall, Night Quest, and Night's End. And if they ever did a 3 animated feature film series, like, I'm not kidding, I would watch those 3 films once a week. Like, yeah, I probably would. I don't know. And so my very first thought was, oh, well, I'm gonna, cast people into doing a Batman Nightfall film. And then, of course, Nobbins said budget is unlimited, so I thought, okay, doesn't necessarily have to be an animated film, so, let's go. And then I sat down and I was like, because then I sort of thought, but then I'm just casting another Batman, I'm casting another Robin, I'm casting another Joker, and that sort of got boring. But then I looked at the list of main characters that are in Nightfall, and it's like at least 20 or so. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to come up with something because that's going to be way too difficult. So, yeah. But no, that is the dream of my... If ever they actually announce that they're doing an animated Nightfall trilogy, like, oh my God. Yeah, yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of Facebook messages from me in all caps with lots of exclamation marks. So, yeah, be prepared. But speaking of movies, so you lucky thing, you've been going to trips to the cinema, haven't you?
I have. It's been a busy time.
I'm so totes jelly, as the kids would say. Totes jelly. Not just a little
But you
jelly.
did get to see Longlegs before me.
I did. Well, not much. But look, I just
Yeah.
got the fact that I got to see it. Okay, I didn't give a shit how many people I got to see it before. The fact that I actually got to go and park my butt in a cinema seat and have that movie do strange things to my eyeballs. Yeah, meant the world to me. But yeah. So let's kick off with you. What have you been watching lately?
All right, I'll get some other ones out of the way and leave the cinema visits for last
Yeah,
because
sure.
I mean they were, besides one, probably the best movies I saw in the last fortnight.
Mm-hmm.
I continued on with Ben Foster after watching
310 to your
310 to
mum.
Yuma,
Oh,
and then
Yuma.
I
Yeah.
and revisiting North Fork,
Mm-hmm.
and so I watched Leave No Trace, which Nobbins recommended.
Mm.
And I didn't talk about this last time, did I? I don't think I did. Um, but it was really interesting because his father daughter, it's like he's got PTSD and doesn't want to be around people, so they're living like in the woods
Right.
and like getting found by people and who are trying to help them with a place to live, but he just wants to be in the woods. And it's Thomas and Mackenzie playing the daughter,
Yep.
which is the youngest I've seen her.
Oh, okay, right.
It was pretty interesting because at first I was like, oh, it's the youngest I've seen her. And then I looked up how old she was and I was like, oh, she's not that young, but she's one of those people that looks young.
Do you know what year
So-
this movie was from?
2018, 2019, something like somewhere around there.
Yeah, right.
I think she was 18 when she made it.
Okay.
Or maybe it's... I'm going to look that up now. I don't want to be like saying the wrong things.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. No, because I was just thinking, because we were talking about Jojo Rabbit earlier before we started recording, and she was in that, but that was from 2019.
Oh, yeah, 2018.
Okay, so she wasn't far off from that one. Yeah, right.
So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was, I kind of, yeah, that's probably a bit too spoilery. But yeah, at one point I wondered where it was going with stuff that was happening. But it didn't go where I thought it might go, which was good. But yeah,
okay.
it's kind of like a nice, like there's almost like a found family aspect to it, which was quite nice as well. And yeah, it was really good. It's nice watching it because I watched Light of My Life not that long ago, which was Casey Affleck as the dad with his daughter, but that was more they were living in the woods because of like an apocalyptic kind of not apocalyptic, dystopian kind of scenario, so that was a bit different. But yeah, it's just interesting having these father-daughter relationship movies.
Yeah. I should start watching some of those because, like, I have one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I finally got around to watching a movie that is one of those movies that anytime someone finds out I haven't seen it, including yourself, they're like, what? How can you have not seen that? Especially when you're obsessed with 90s movies. And that was Dangerous Minds.
One of the biggest films of the 90s.
It was one of the biggest films of the 90s. And I mean, I was working in the cinema when that movie came out. But, and, you know, I mean, we were getting free movies at that point, and so we were just seeing everything. But I don't know. There was just something about it at the time that just didn't
One of the biggest
grab
songs
me.
of the 90s as
Oh,
well.
there's no doubt, yeah. And including there was a cover version of that on the last album by Group X Arabian Rap Sensations, just saying. I don't know why I'm mentioning that, but anyway. Yeah, so that was on the list of movies that Kylie really wanted to show me, and
I haven't seen that since the 90s.
right. Well, yeah, look, I liked it. It well, it didn't really have the kind of dramatic tension that I was hoping it was going to have, you know? Like, yeah, it had good performances. I know that it was kind of, well, it wasn't like, you know, the first of its kind in terms of, you know, naive teacher has to teach, you know, violent kids or whatever. And of course, South Park, you know, I had to Do you know about the South Park episode where Cartman is a teacher and he goes into a class to, and there was a
No.
famous line for it, like it was quoted several times where he's like, "How do I reach these kids?" And so that line was just going through my brain throughout the entire
It's got an
movie.
accent now.
Well, no, he did have an accent in it. Like he played a because he walks in. He's I think he was like a Latino teacher or something, and so yeah, he's like constantly every time they're disrupted, he's like turns around. He's like, "How do I reach these kids?" And so that was just going through. And of course, when you look on the
Well, now your comment makes sense. Was it your
yeah.
review or whatever? Because I was just like, well, I guess that's a quote, but I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you the second highest most popular review on Letterboxd is just how do I reach these kids? Eric Cartman. And so yeah, of course, what was my review? And in the end, not only did she reach these kids, but these kids reached her. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, yeah, the performances were good and everything, and it was interesting, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, would I watch it again? Probably not. If I may, go into another movie that I watched, because that actually segued into the next one that I watched, which because I was explaining to Kylie, like, oh, like, because I'm quite fascinated by sort of early 90s LA gang culture and stuff like that. And I said to her, oh, look, if you're ever after a movie that really hammers home, what these kids went through and, has that dramatic tension. And I said, look, Boys in the Hood is like unbeatable. And so she suddenly got very interested in that. And so we actually made that the next film that we watched. Which I have seen many, many times before. But yeah, it's one of those films that I feel is like essential viewing. You know what I mean? Like there are just those films that you kind of think like everybody needs to see at least once. And yeah, so rewatch that one. And yeah, oh my God, that film is so gripping and so powerful. I mean, it's from 1991, but 33 years later, not only is it as powerful, but it's still as relevant as well. You sort of, yeah, no one's really learnt anything since then, which is a little depressing. But yeah, you haven't seen Boys in the Hood, have you?
No.
No. Oh man, I cannot recommend that movie enough. So yeah, so I showed that to her and I was like, so that is the kind of film that I had sort of wished Dangerous Minds had been a bit more like, yeah, so... But anyway, it gave me an excuse to watch Boys in the Hood again, so there you go.
Well, I finally watched this Korean movie that's been on my watch list for years. I Saw the Devil.
Right, yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I kind of knew what it was about, but I didn't know how brutal it was until
Oh,
it
okay.
started.
Yeah, right.
So it's about a serial killer, and he kills this girl, which is what you see at the start of the movie, or woman, I should say. And she's the fiance of this guy who then goes out for revenge to capture this guy. I think he's a cop, and he goes on leave from his job
Right.
because his fiance just died. And he, is investigating on his own. And it's just goes from there. It's like non-stop thrill ride. There's some really cool like camera stuff. There's some really violent stuff. It's just full on the whole time, and it's absolutely amazing. So I recommend, as I said, if you can handle brutal revenge films like that,
hell
because
yeah.
it's very like kind of in your face with some of the stuff that people do to each other,
Yeah, yeah.
then I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Shudder, and so
That answers
yeah,
my next
because I
question.
remember it's quite long. I think it's maybe close to 2.5 hours or something, but
Right.
it flies by because it's so you just can't look away, and it's kind of almost a bit over the top in places, so it's kind of funny as well. Not in a like comedy not like
Yeah,
a
but you laugh at messed
laughing
up
comedy,
stuff.
but no, but it's darkly funny. Like there's some, it's just really over the top in places
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well
right.
as being this totally brutal
Hmm.
film. So
Okay. No,
yeah,
that
very
definitely sounds
cool.
like something I would be interested in.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um. Well, okay. Skipping past because the next movie I watched was Longlegs, but I'm not going to talk about that yet because oh boy, have I got things to say. So another movie that I showed Kylie. Okay, so I have a really super deep fascination with Charles Manson and the Manson family and the Tate LaBianca killings of 1969. Ever since I read the book Helter Skelter, which was the most terrifying thing I've ever read in my life, yeah, I've been really fascinated to the point where I can name every single victim. I can name every member of the Manson, all the key ones. Like
You're going about me and my mind, and
yeah,
you're just like, I'm really into the Manson gang. Last time you were like, I'm really into gun violence, school shootings, and then you're like, I'm really, what was the other one that
can we
just
not
popped in
use
my
the word
head? And you're like
into?
really into gang, like
Okay, no, 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 hang on.
stuff.
Not when you say that I'm into that, that makes it
Interested
sound
in and
like
like not into doing it, into
yeah, fascinated by.
media about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. These sort of things do fascinate me, definitely. And they won't stop me from giving you a hard time about all the menial things that you are into. So there was a version of Helter Skelter from 1976. So, that was only 7 years after the whole situation happened. That I used to own on VHS, like way back in the day, and I'd seen it a few times, but yeah, Kylie was very interested in knowing more about the whole thing. So, and that film, okay, so it's a 3 hour film. Don't be put off by what Letterboxd says because Letterboxd says it goes for 368 minutes. Now, I was sort of sitting there. I was like, now hang on a second. That's 6 hours? I don't think it goes for 6 hours. And no, it doesn't. But it is a 3 hour film. But it is really interesting because the book was written by a guy named Vincent Bugliosi, who was actually the prosecuting attorney on the case. So the book was like first-hand account of what happened. It wasn't just sort of and so this film is based on the book, and so it's a really factual reenactment of the whole trial and everything. It barely touches on the actual murders themselves, although when it does, it's really interesting because my god, they did their research. If you look at the way they have positioned the actors on the lawn who have been stabbed like dozens of times, and then you look at the crime scene photos, it's like wow, they went there, but no, it doesn't glorify the violence or anything like that. It's more about because that case was bungled by the Californian police. It was an absolute fluke that they actually caught the right people in the end, and so it's more about that, about the investigation, about the trial, all of that sort of stuff, So it's the kind of movie that it helps if you've got an interest in courtroom dramas or police sort of true crime stuff. But yeah, no, it's really really brilliant. Yeah, if anyone is interested in that, bit of dark history, if you will, I cannot recommend that one enough. So yeah. So
Have you
yes.
seen the movie Charlie Says?
No, I haven't seen that one, but I know of it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't. I think I liked it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember. It was before Letterboxd, so I
Right,
haven't
right.
rated it. But it's got a pretty good cast because Matt Smith is playing Manson, and Sosie
Really?
Bacon's in it, and Suki
Hmm.
Waterhouse.
Okay.
So yeah.
Because there was also a more modern, like I think it was from the 2000s. There was another version of Helter Skelter that was a much shorter film, and apparently it's equally as good from what people have said about it. So I'm keen to see that one as well at some point. But yeah, but no, don't mind revisiting that film once in a while, especially when I get to educate people who don't know much about it. And it's like, yes, now you can be a twisted psycho too. Yay! School shootings and serial killers. Yay! Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I'm not going to talk about that one yet. Last one. I it's funny how this turned out yesterday. I got back into, if you remember, after watching Low Lifes, I wanted to see all the Richard Harmon things.
I do remember.
And so I looked yesterday and decided to watch this film that's the most popular one of his that I haven't seen before that is streaming, called I Still See You. And it has like a 2.6 average rating on Letterboxd. So I was like, well, that's not great, but, it looks kind of cool. So I'll see what it's like. And it started and it was really, I was like, found it really interesting. It's like a sort of young adult thriller. I think it's based on a book.
Right.
And so it starts with this girl who's 6 and this event happens when she's at school. And you find out that it's like some kind of science thing gone wrong, and it kind of sent this wave out that just kind of vaporized people in its path, and they had to move the town and stuff.
Right.
And then it cuts to 10 years later, and she's 16, and you find out that there's, like, they call them remnants of the people who died, and they just kind of show up in a spot and do the same thing over and over. And they, you can't interact with them. Nothing changes. Like her dad is one. And so he just turns up at the breakfast table reading the paper, takes a drink of coffee, and then just disappears.
Oh, wow.
And there's like an old lady that crosses the street. There's a guy shoveling snow. And so all things like that. And it's just part of their life now. And so we're following the schoolgirl, and she, one morning when she's in the shower, she pulls the shower curtain open, and there's this, like, guy standing in the bathroom. So
is it Nobbins? I bet it's Nobbins.
So he's a remnant, and the bathroom's all steamed up, and then he writes the word "run" in the steam on the window, the mirror of the cabinet.
Yeah.
And so she's freaking out because he's never been there before. Who is he? He, like, communicated with her. And so she turns to this. They showed some scenes in the school. There's, like, the weird kid, which is Richard Harmon, who got expelled from his last school, and they call, like, her friend calls him Ghost Boy because he's apparently, like, super into the remnants. So she talked to the teacher that does a class on it, and he's just kind of like, you're wrong, they can't do anything. So then she goes to talk to this guy because he's into remnants. She can figure out stuff. And so they team up to find out, who this is, why it's happening, and they eventually find out that he's a killer.
Oh, okay.
And he killed his girlfriend, and they start following the clues and do an investigation about what's going on, why he's there, is she in danger, and all this stuff. And it goes from there. But it's really funny. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I had to stop the movie about halfway through to because I had groceries delivered. And I remember I sent you and Nobbins a message, and I'm like, this movie has a low rating, but it's actually really interesting. And there was a really good jump scare that totally got me.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if that means, like, what's going to happen at the end? Is the end going to fall apart? And so, then I went back to the movie and watched the third act, and I was just sitting there going, but why are they doing that? Why is that happening? How come that can happen now? And that kind of stuff. It just kind of really lost it in the end. So it just kind of, things happened that I don't know how or why they happened with what seemed to have been set up for how things work and all of that. But I mean,
that sucks when
it was still fun. It just, I mean, well, I'm a Richard Harmon fan now, so I kind of fine with watching the movie. And the girl is Bella Thorne, and all the top Letterboxd reviews are people going on about her wig in the movie. So, that's not helpful. But she's kind of not a goth, but not far off. So she's got a really like
That sort of
alternative
rhymes.
look.
She's not a
Yeah.
goth, but she's not far off. Boom, doom, doom.
So she looks really
Yeah.
cool. She's got like the, dark hair, blunt fringe,
Mm-hmm.
lots of makeup, cool
Yeah.
clothes,
Mm.
and Richard Harmon's got the hoodies with the denim jacket over, and because it's like snowing and really cold
Right,
place.
right.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would be if it's
So
snowing.
yeah, so
Hey,
I
again, I
haven't
can
rated
make
that.
dad jokes now.
I don't know how to rate it. So because I
Mm.
did really like the first half, but then it really like fell over
Mm.
where it resolved the story, and then I found out it was based on a book when the end credits came in. So I'm kind of curious
Mm.
to read the book now, just to see, is the book like, did that stuff happen in the book,
Yeah.
or did they like make it more ridiculous for the movie?
Mm.
Like I don't, I might have to look up the book and read some reviews on Goodreads and just see what people have said about it, but I'm kind of curious.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it now if you ever get around to that. Well, I've got one more movie that I watched before talking about cinema stuff, and that was a movie that I hadn't really heard of it, but again, it was on Kylie's list of movies that she wanted to show me, and when I found out it was actually by the director of Everest, which of course was one of our favorites back when we did Hit or Shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, this could be good. So it's a movie from 2018 called Adrift, and it's got Shailene Woodley in it, who is in the Divergent films, which I haven't actually seen, but I think that's where she's probably most known from.
I think
Um,
she's in some Zac Efron film I watched. That was a
Look,
bit cheesy, but like
maybe
I loved how cheesy it was.
maybe she is. But the male lead is
No.
Sam Claflin, who I'm just looking was in Last Night in Soho, um, as punter number 5. Okay, fair enough. But
No,
he's
I
been
was
in the
thinking
Hunger
of a different
Games
actress, by the way, so I
films,
don't
and
know her.
he was also. Oh, hang on, he was in the night. Wait a minute.
Oh wait, no, I did watch Divergent. Okay, so
Wait a
never
minute.
mind. What?
Okay, I know that like we're actually recording and everything, but like I've just no, I didn't recognize him. He was the main bad guy in The Nightingale. You know that film I keep banging on about, that Australian film directed by Jennifer Kent. No, oh my god, that is him. Sorry, okay, you're hearing this live, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, oh, he was Finnick in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, but okay, so the reason why I'm freaking
Oh,
out
he's
right
been
now
in
is
tons of
because
stuff.
I have seen The Nightingale a few times, including seeing it in the cinema, and it is just one of the greatest films ever made, and I didn't even recognize that this guy was the same guy. I wish I'd actually picked up on that. But anyway, but no, it's actually a true story of survival about a couple that kind of a new couple who are commissioned to sail a yacht from one place to another, but they wind up getting stuck in this massive hurricane in the middle of the ocean that cripples the boat, basically capsizes it and everything. And yeah, it's kind of like a survival. I wouldn't say thriller, but it was pieced together as it goes through. Like it's sort of time jumps. You sort of on the wrecked boat with what was Shailene's character? Well, when I say character, it's a real person, Tammy. And Tammy's trying to sort of figure out everything, like where the dude is and all that sort of stuff, and then it cuts to going through when they first meet and when they fall in love and when they get commissioned to take the boat and all this sort of stuff. So it's sort of two parallel stories. And yeah, again, it was another one of those movies that I really enjoyed it while I was watching it. And it had quite a few really good scenes in it and everything, but it again just kind of lacked. Like, I kept comparing it in my mind to Fall, which of course was just one of my most favorite movies in
Yeah.
recent years. Like,
That's a great
and
one.
that movie is so packed with tension and fright, and like, yeah, that movie makes you feel something, whereas Adrift didn't really do that for me. But yeah, I'd still definitely recommend it for anyone who likes those kind of films. But yeah, I kind of actually want to rewatch it again now that I've realized that was the dude
Well,
from
I just
Nightingale.
looked up this guy, a Nightingale, and he
Yeah.
looks pretty cool in that. And then a picture came up of him in something else because it looks
Mm.
like a completely different time period, and he looks
Yeah.
super hot. So now I'm like, I just kind of want to watch what that thing is.
Oh, okay. Well, I still
I
want
don't
you
know
to
what it
watch.
is. It's just from an article about um, him talking about playing bad guys.
Yeah, right. Well, I still really want you to watch The Nightingale because, yeah, that movie is just so freaking brilliant and traumatizing. But,
One
yeah.
day.
And he was such an amazing villain in that film, too. He's like one of those people that you just utterly loathed and wanted to see terrible things happen to him. So, yeah. But no, I just can't believe I didn't recognize him. But anyway, there you go. He does look
Oh,
quite different.
Peaky Blinders.
You're a
It's
Peaky
another
Blinders.
reason to watch Peaky Blinders
Oh,
because,
okay.
yeah, this picture. This would be enough to make me watch Peaky Blinders, even if it wasn't already on my list because it's Cillian Murphy.
Right, right.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to that and Nightingale one day.
Oh, look, I'd recommend The Nightingale a million times over Adrift, but no, Adrift was still quite good. It's streaming on Stan.
Yeah, he doesn't look as hot in Adrift.
No, and he's kind of mangled as well. Like, yeah, he's got some pretty nasty wounds happening and things like that. So, but it was kind of neat in it was one of those films that at the end, it showed you like real life newspaper clippings and stuff, and then an actual shot of.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing in movies now when they're based on real things. They
But no,
did
it
that
actually.
with.
Oh, it actually showed like a shot of Tammy Ashcroft, the main subject, sailing a boat as well on the at the end, like to show what she actually looked like and stuff, which was cool. Like she
Yeah,
obviously
because
consented to the film.
that happened like Society of the Snow.
Oh, which I still haven't seen.
Yeah, that at the end showed
Yeah,
photos
yeah,
of
right.
the actual guys, but they
Yeah,
had recreated the scenes in the movie as well.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
was really cool at the end to see like they all pose for a photo together at one
yeah.
stage, and so then at the end they show the actual photo that they took of
Well,
the team.
Everest did the exact same thing, if you
Yeah,
recall. Like the
yeah.
exact same thing. There was a photo that they took in the film, and then at the end you saw the actual photo. So yeah, which, funnily
And
enough, was this director. So yeah,
speaking of,
yeah.
I went to see the Bike Riders, which
Wow.
is based on a life guy who spoke to my motorcycle club
Mm,
and recorded interviews with uh, Kathy Cross.
mm-hmm.
I guess they kept real names. I don't know that
Yeah.
Jodie Comer plays,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where she got a lot of flack for her supposed bad accent that apparently sounds exactly like how the real woman sounded.
Oh,
So,
right, right.
but
Now,
yeah, so
now we should just probably jump in and just say that, like, you have been looking forward to this film
well, I
so
was just
freaking
about to
much.
say, yeah, this
Yeah.
is a film from Jeff Nichols, who's become one of my favorite directors because he did Take Shelter,
Mm-hmm.
and Shotgun Stories are my two favorites. And so Take Shelter, I just came across by chance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. One day I'll make you watch it. Really good performances, and so I ended up watching all his films.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there was a new one coming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is pretty interesting because it's following this motorcycle club kind of in the end of back when it was just guys having a place to hang out and who like to ride and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of at the turning point of when they started becoming gangs and doing illegal things and whatever. So you've got Austin Butler as the eye candy of the group.
Yep.
And so he falls in love with Jodie Comer's character, and so she gets drawn into the life of them. And it's also following Tom Hardy, who's kind of the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a really cool supporting cast of guys as the group, and it's just it felt the first half was a bit. I don't know. It just kind of felt really sort of surface level with
Okay.
everything happening. Like it was fun. It was good to look at, of course, because he's got these, motorcycle kind of guys, so they're all
Yeah.
pretty cool looking. But then in the second half, things start happening and stuff
Right.
starts escalating, and it gets, as these new guys are coming in and all that. So, yeah, very good film. It's not a new favorite, but
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
not
that's a shame.
it's not the worst of his films. Well, not
Right. Right.
worst. It's not, it's
Yeah.
not bottom of my list of ranking because none of his films have been bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's very happy because this is the movie that was meant to come out last year and then got dropped by whoever
Exactly.
had it. And then another company picked it up, so we finally got to see it this year.
Yeah, because I wrote an article last year where I had to list like the 5, films to look out for in 2023, and yeah, I had that on there. And then of course it was like the article got published, and then it was like, oh, wait a minute, that movie's not coming out this year. Okay, well, don't I look like a dumbass? So yeah, but
Yeah, well, it was on cinema listings and everything the
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and then it just suddenly was gone, and they all had to
Yeah.
change it to just be, in the future.
yeah. Well, yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm still
and-
looking forward to eventually checking it out because yeah, I've been very keen to see it as well. But
And I will say, when I started watching it and realized that one of the guys from Challenges was in it,
Oh, really?
I was like, oh. But then I saw him, and he looks completely different and
Yeah.
and much better in the Bike Riders. He's the
Okay.
guy that's doing the interviewing stuff,
Right,
so he's not
right.
in it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Boyd Holbrook. So
Okay.
he's one of those guys that every time he turns up, I'm like, it's that guy. So
Hey, look,
yeah,
you-
he's
you-
a good-looking guy.
You had me at Jodie Comer. I will.
Oh, and
watch
Carl
anything she's
Glusman.
in.
He's
Oh, yeah.
in so many movies I've watched recently. He was in the one I watched, the Micah Monroe one with all the people with tattoos and the guy's trying to get his daughter back from a cult or something.
Oh,
He was
right.
in that, and I'm just, God is a Bullet or something. I read the book years ago. But he was in that too, and I'm like, oh, I know that guy from somewhere. Who is
Yeah,
that guy?
yeah.
He's pretty cool. And I looked it up, and it was him. And I did the same thing in Bike Riders. I don't know. I just can't remember that that's him. But every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, oh, he's cool. Who's that? And then I look it up, and I'm like, oh, it's him again. Though he does look quite different in some movies.
Yeah.
So I just, don't know him well enough to always recognize his face. But yes, it was a good time.
Yeah, cool. Well, I only have one cinema film. So did you?
Oh yeah, I'll just do
You've
my
got
I'll do
something
my
else
other
that,
two, and then we will
yeah, yeah.
end with Longlegs.
Oh yeah.
So I did also, speaking of directors I like who have new films coming out, I went to see Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film, which was interesting. I went with Michael, who is not a fan of Killing of a Sacred Deer or The Lobster, and we'd heard that, this was kind of going back to those films because he was teaming up with the guy whose name I probably should have looked up, that he co-wrote those films with.
Right.
So I think he co-wrote, or the other guy wrote them, I can't remember. But so we weren't sure how much it was going to be like those films.
Sure.
But it turns out like we both liked it, so it was fine. So this was 3 stories, same actors playing different characters in each
Okay,
story.
that's a cool idea.
Yeah, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
So just briefly, so the first story, Jesse Plemons is this guy who kind of his day is planned out. Like he reads on a card, this is having this for breakfast, doing this, doing that.
Or Jesse
then-
Lemons, according to your autocorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always in my brain. I'm always going to be calling him Jesse Lemons now. Yeah.
And then one day he decides to not do something that is on his plan. So that's that story. The second story is his wife, Emma Stone, is a research person out on a reef or somewhere who got shipwrecked or something. And so she's just been rescued and come back. But he's like, this is not actually my wife, though.
Oh, okay, right.
So there's that, and then the third story is a couple of people in that are part of a cult looking for this um, supposed special person. So they're like doing testing of people to
Hmm.
see if they're the one, and then it's also following stuff with Emma Stone's family that she left to join the cult.
Okay.
So, but it's Yorgos, so
Yeah.
it's there's some weird stuff going on.
In a Yorgos film, really? What?
Yeah, so
Outrageous.
it's really fun,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
um, yeah, Willem Dafoe is one
Hmm.
of the group of actors, so
Yeah.
he was really good.
I actually had him cast as the librarian in my film initially.
Mm.
I remember now. Oh, no, that's right. Because initially I was going to cast him as the magician, but then I was like, no, that's just like too easy. Casting him as a like creepy, villain role. So then I thought, well, maybe he could be the librarian. Then he just got kicked out altogether. I was like, sorry, Willem, but yeah, you don't belong in my film. Get out of here.
Yeah, he gets lots of roles.
Exactly, yeah, he doesn't need one in my stupid film. And I think you saw something else, didn't you?
Yes, I went to see Twisters.
Which everybody except me and Kylie have now seen, so god damn it. Ugh.
So I love Twister. I think I talked about that last time because I
Yeah.
rewatched it. And so I was like 99.5% sure that I was
Mm,
going to love this film. I couldn't see from what I knew of it how
yeah,
I
yeah.
would not like it.
Hmm.
The only thing I was hoping would be that they would keep the spirit of the original rather than how some modern movies of this type are, and they
Yep.
did do that.
Yeah,
So I was
cool.
very happy about that. And yeah, this was just fun, like the original. It was just fun,
Hmm.
and Glenn Powell was great. He's got the charm.
Mm.
And what's her name?
Yeah, what's her name?
Uh,
What's her name? Uh, I don't know.
is it Daisy?
Oopsie daisy. What?
No,
Ah.
Daisy Edgar Jones.
Ah,
That's
yes,
it.
of course.
She was really good,
Hmm.
and Brand. Oh, I have to say his name again. Brandon Perea. Perea. I should look up how to say his name. I'll do that one day.
Yeah.
He like because remember his character in Nope was like so fun and cool, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're gonna get another role like that, and we totally did. He didn't
Awesome.
have tons of screen time.
Mm.
Also, he had long hair and like facial hair. It's kind of like Johnny Depp style
Okay.
hair thing going on, which is
Yeah,
cool.
right.
Ken and Shipka had very little screen time, so that was sad.
Mm.
Yeah, good soundtrack, lots of fun. I was like, oh, hey, it's new Superman. I can see what he's like. And
Oh, right. I didn't know
yeah, I
he was in
couldn't
it.
really because he's playing a character that the whole thing is he doesn't really have a personality.
Oh, okay.
So he was very bland.
Yeah,
so,
right, right.
so I don't know. But anyway, it was kind of fun to be like, hey, that's
Mm.
that's new Superman.
I mean, the
Even
actor
though I
has a
don't
name,
care
but
because I don't like Superman, but
ah,
I'm
blasphemy.
just enjoying the journey of
Yeah.
having a new Superman and starting
Mm.
a new like movie world.
Hmm.
So yeah, this was really fun. The effects were good. The whole thing of my friend warned me Glenn Powell was annoying at the
Mm.
beginning, but not for me.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really fun. And I'm like, I would probably be watching his YouTube channel to see
Right,
the
right.
crazy stuff he's doing with the
Mm.
tomatoes. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I just saw on the news today apparently there's controversy
Mm.
about what was cut from the final scene.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I don't really know why people are that disappointed because I didn't even think about it because it's like to do with so it's a spoiler but it's not really because it's completely in the news so you could just see like no chance to look away. They have a photo of it and everything.
Yeah.
You know what's happening in this movie. They filmed a kiss at the end
Oh,
and
okay.
and Steven Spielberg said you should cut that.
Oh, right.
So they cut it
Yeah.
and people are raging about it.
Oh, wow.
And because apparently lots of people were super disappointed they didn't kiss at the end, but the
Huh.
movie was not about the romance.
Mm.
It was there, it was building, and so I just felt like the whole movie was the beginning, and
Mm.
where it ends, it's going to go
Mm.
from there. They didn't
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
sure.
kiss. So
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
you mean to tell me that there are people out there who are complaining about something completely trivial? Like what? I don't understand. Now, listen. One thing, because I was talking to my good friend Wombat yesterday. Yes, I have a friend named Wombat. Well, that's not his actual name, but let's just go with it. And he was very skeptical about this film because he said that he thought the trailer just made it look like a shot for shot remake of the first one. So, of course, he was like, no, I don't want to go see that. He doesn't actually talk like that. And he did go and see it. And he was pleasantly surprised because, yeah, he said, my God, it was like totally different to the first one. And.
Yeah, there's similarities because, I mean, how can you not have that when it's
Yeah.
still people chasing tornadoes and
Mm.
trying to do science stuff? So,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they even have the like Dorothy from the first film.
Yeah, right.
That's like the only connection to the first film.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually, I don't know if I mentioned that last time. I read that the main girl was the daughter of Helen Hunt's character from the first one, and that
Right.
is not the case.
Mm.
So whatever I read must have been from a like previous iteration of a sequel that never came to be,
Yeah,
which
sure.
was very annoying because it didn't read that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, there wasn't really any connection to the original, but it kind of had the same
Mm.
like heart of the first film that
No, I
you
just thought it
don't
was interesting
get now.
because, of course, Wombat is one of those people that, will judge a film based on its trailer. And I've
Yeah, I
been
didn't
trying
watch the
to,
trailer for this, so I can't
yeah, well, I've been
comment
trying
on
to,
how it looked.
tell him for years, like, you can't base a film's quality on its trailer. Like,
So,
trailers can be
we're
so
gonna go
completely
see The
misleading.
Crow.
Sometimes you can't base a film's quality on the trailer. Look, I will give The Crow a go. Of course I will.
Yeah,
Yeah, look, we
it
have a
just
list.
might be a very painful experience based on the
Oh, look, I
trailer.
probably won't go to the cinema to see it, mainly because I can't go to the cinema to see anything at the moment. But when it hits streaming, I'll be all over it. But yeah, look, no, yeah, I'm not keeping my breath held that The Crow's going to be anything resembling a good film, but I may very well be surprised, but I'm not going to know until I actually
Hmm.
see it. So, yeah, so no, I just thought that was interesting. So, anytime
I
Wombat now
know.
says to me, oh, this trailer looks like shit, I'm going to be like, yes, but twisters. Haha.
Yeah, I it's there's been mixed reviews on this, but I have also found the same with the original film.
Mm.
And a lot of people seem to feel kind of the same about both.
Oh, okay,
So
right,
I
right.
feel like, I mean, I love the original and I love
Yeah.
this one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I feel like it depends what you want in a movie. Because, I
Mm.
mean, this is one of those like fun blockbuster
Mm.
kind of popcorn movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like they always suffer from these mixed opinions because a lot
Mm.
of people, I don't know, maybe they care. I don't know. Maybe I care too little. Maybe they care too much about
Yeah, yeah, right.
having amazing scripts and
Mm.
this and that on all these films, whereas I just approach them as I want to have a good time.
Because girls just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, from the general consensus that I've heard from a lot of things I've read is the Twist is one of those sequels that is way better than the first one. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what a lot
don't.
of people are saying.
I. Well, I feel like there's probably lots of people who are young and are going back to watch the original now,
Hmm.
and that's going to hurt it because it's very
Yeah.
90s, and
Oh yeah.
the technology, of course, wasn't as good for the special effects.
Yeah.
And there's certain things. I mean, it's kind of the different plot because in the original, it's, they're about to get divorced and he
Mm.
is coming to get her to sign the divorce papers and then they get caught up together doing
Mm.
stuff. Whereas this one is like two people meeting and
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
connecting and having the thing. And it's also about like a thing that happened in her past
Mm-hmm.
that we see at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
So they kind of got different things going on.
Mm.
But I feel like it's just yeah, I can see why people don't like the original, but I just think it's such a good time that but I also watched it in the 90s when I was a kid, so that might make a difference.
Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I don't have as big a connection with the first one as you did, but I do remember enjoying it. But no, I'm just curious as to this new one. Now, listen, we should just interject before we keep going though, because Twisters, of course, has reminded me of a film that I first learned about today. That we saw the trailer, we saw the poster, and it is now I want to see this film more than any other film that you could throw at me. It's even gone above Deadpool and Wolverine as the film that I want to see most this year, and that is Catnado. There is a film out there called Catnado, and there is a trailer on YouTube. Go look it up. Apparently, this film was from 2022, but I don't know if it's actually been released anywhere yet or something like that. But the poster I thought was absolutely sensational. Like, if I could get away with, removing my fiance and children from my phone lock screen, I would have the Catnado poster on there right now. Yeah. Did you actually see the trailer? Did you get
No,
around
I
to watching
haven't
it?
watched it yet.
It's every bit as awful as you could, like, I'm talking, in one scene where a cat lands on a car windscreen or whatever, and it is obviously just a plush toy cat. So yeah, they have done, put in absolutely no effort whatsoever to make this thing look any sort of believable or whatever. But I don't know. I think it could be kind of a fun film. But yeah, I'll check it out one day. But yeah, Catnado, everybody, stay tuned. But of course, now we have reached the big one, the movie that we have both actually seen. Which, yeah, I was really kindly invited by Radio Metro 105.7. There you go, there's a big plug. To a screening of Longlegs, which was a movie that you were more anticipating this film than I was initially, because I didn't really know that much about it. Well, I mean, neither of us did. Like, the trailers were very vague, but I think,
Yeah, it was Osgood Perkins' movie. It was
yeah,
my most anticipated of the year, just for that alone, plus the
yeah.
bonus of Micah Monroe and Nicolas Cage.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. I thought, okay, like, yeah, the cast sounds cool. And then I found out later on, because I thought it was like a straight up horror film, but then I found out later on that no, it was like a serial killer detective movie. And I was like, ooh, and then people are comparing it to Seven, and I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, I'm really excited about this film now. This is one of those things, though, for me, going into it, my level of excitement and anticipation, the film exceeded that for me. Like, I sat down and thought, okay, got to calm my brain. This might just be like a 2.5 to 3 star kind of a film, but I have not stopped thinking about this film since Wednesday. It's going to be really hard for anything to beat this film for me this year. This film, now, as you've said numerous times, like, I feel films more than you do. Like,
Certain films.
yeah, yeah,
Horror
yeah.
films, you seem to feel a lot more than me.
Yeah, yeah. This film, man, when it got to that third, because you know how it was in 3 parts and it had the thing on the, like, part 1, part 2, part 3. I remember when part 3 came up, I turned around to Kylie and I just said, man, I really feel like I need a break right now. Like, that film was doing so much to me. And like, we got to the end of it, I held my hand up to show her, and like, I was trembling at the end of this film.
Wow.
My eyes were kind of moist. Like, this film kicked me in the guts that hard. Now, I'm not going to say too much right now because we're going to record a separate episode for this film. But
Also, we can't really talk about anything much.
well, yeah, exactly. But you also absolutely love this film, right?
Yeah, well, I was worried about hype because, I mean, I
Yeah,
was hyped enough anyway, just because of what I said before.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was worried because so many good reviews were coming out. And I don't listen to the like I'd heard people were saying scary and other people were saying it's not scary, it's just like that sense of dread. And the number of times people say stuff like that and you go to a movie and it's just your average horror movie. So,
Yep.
I wasn't paying attention to that, but there was really good reviews coming out overall. So that had me excited for it. But I was trying not to get overhyped. Then Dan went and saw it a couple of days before me and said how amazing it was. So I was like, there's another review hyping it up so far.
Sorry.
But yeah, I was meant to see Twisters on Friday night, but then like we were going to the cinema with the bigger screen, and then when I went to book tickets on the Thursday night, they had given away that cinema to Longlegs.
Right.
So my friend and I decided to wait till Saturday to see Twisters so we could get it on the big screen, which meant I was free on Friday. It was my half day off work, so I went to see it in the afternoon, and it was a really good time to go because my local cinema's not that busy anyway.
Yeah.
And
right.
it was, people were still working, school kids were still heading home and getting ready for their Friday nights. So there was like two other people besides me in the cinema. I was in the second row from the back. They sat in the back row, so I couldn't see anybody else.
Yeah,
So that was really cool. But I will say about this movie, it has the best opening ever. And so as soon as that opening happened and like leading into the opening credits,
Yeah.
I was just like, well, I didn't have to worry about this being overhyped because
And
that was one of the best openings ever. And Nicolas Cage, I just had the biggest smile on my face every time he was on screen because his performance. So yeah, I was probably feeling more glee than what you were feeling.
Right. Oh yeah, because what you said about the opening, I even turned to Kylie, after that moment that you see it in the trailer, where he kind of starts leaning into the shot and you just see the bottom part of his face and then it cuts to the titles or whatever. And I turned to Kyle and I was like, I said those exact words.
See, I didn't even see that.
I said best opening ever.
I watched the teasers. I didn't watch if there's a trailer out, so I hadn't even seen that part or anything.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. The marketing campaign. I have typed into Google right now, Nicolas Cage Longlegs, and there is not a clear shot in the Google image search anywhere of his character design. I don't know how, in this day and age of information overload, how they managed to keep it a secret. But yeah, when you sort of they show hints of him here and there, and then when it's finally the big full reveal and everything, it's like Kylie didn't actually realize that was Nicolas Cage. She knew he was in the film and everything, but she didn't realize until the interrogation scene that it was actually Nicolas Cage. And I mean, my God, that is testament to the makeup department and but yeah, I thought he was more frightening than any horror villain I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Oh yeah, maybe with the exception of Sadako from Ring, because that thing just fucking freaks me out so badly. But in terms of every other serial, Buffalo Bill or John Doe from Seven, in terms of them, in terms of your typical actual horror villains, your Freddys and your Jasons, all that sort of stuff, nothing has chilled me to the bone more than Nicolas Cage was in that film. And the scene that got me the most was in the interrogation room, which funnily enough was the first time Micah Monroe had actually met Nicolas Cage or seen his makeup. They didn't show her anything, or they didn't let them meet or anything until they called action and she walked in and saw him. So her reaction is real in that scene. But that moment where the camera is on his face and he's just kind of, leaning down, with his eyes towards the camera and just in that sort of twisted kind of thing, man, I was squirming in my seat. I'm not kidding. I was actually sort of closing my arms together and just I don't feel comfortable right now. And yeah, for a film to do that to me, is really something special, you know. My God, the love I have for that film now is just, yeah, indescribable. But yeah, so that's all I'll say about that for now. But we've got to do a separate episode on that one for sure. All right, well, in that case, I think it is time we get stuck into the movie that you have chosen for us, which was kind of an odd choice, being that it's sort of the middle of a franchise sort of a film, but nonetheless, it still felt like a good time to revisit Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Alright, so Franklin, why did you pick this movie? And tell us about this movie. Like, this is your film, so how about you lead us into this one and talk about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol?
Well, like I think I said last time, this is probably my favorite of the Mission Impossible films. And I came late to Mission Impossible. I think I'd seen the first one possibly way, way back. But I can't be sure because I only remembered the train stuff, so I don't know if I saw the whole thing.
Right.
And so when I watched the movies, I watched the first 5, I think it was, all really close together because I wanted to see Fallout at the cinema if I liked them.
Yep.
And then I rewatched them all again before Dead Reckoning came out. So they kind of run together in my head. But this one always stood out mainly because of the Dubai scene.
Yeah.
But then, so yeah, it's always been my favorite. I feel like this is kind of the turning point in the franchise, perhaps, with them all running together, where they just started going really big on the stunts. And then someone pointed out in a review I was reading that it's also when Tom Cruise starts doing physical comedy, apparently, as, you know, like the opening in the Russian jailbreak where he's communicating with Simon Pegg's character. What is he, Benji?
Benji, yeah.
Benji. Through looks, trying to get him to open the doors and stuff. So all that kind of stuff. So they're like, oh, Ethan Hunt's funny now. So, so this movie kind of has 3 parts. There's Russia with the jailbreak to get Ethan out of jail, and then a mission at the Kremlin that goes really badly. Part 2 is in Dubai, and then part 3 is in India at a millionaire's party.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is a huge freaking film. So for those who may not have seen this film, look, I'm going to resort to Letterboxd as far as the synopsis goes, because if I sit here, I'm going to wind up going on for like 30 minutes. Ethan Hunt and his team are racing against time to track down a dangerous terrorist named Hendrix, who has gained access to Russian nuclear launch codes and is planning a strike on the United States. An attempt to stop him ends in an explosion causing severe destruction to the Kremlin and the IMF to be implicated in the bombing, forcing the president to disavow them. No longer being aided by the government, Ethan and his team chase Hendrix around the globe, although they might still be too late to stop a disaster. Like you said, like this... You get the impression by the end of this that you've watched 3 or 4 different films, right? I mean, like you said, this was a turning point. For me, I mean, I've been on board the MI series since the first one, you know, because that movie was massive when it first came out. And, that was a time when I was working in a cinema and everything. So being around that environment, you know, I think, like, I can't remember how many times I wound up seeing it. And we would always, you know, go into the cinema like towards the end, you know, in that whole train sequence to stick around before the doors open, because, you know, part of our job was to open and lock the doors open for people to come out. But yeah, we'd always go in there as early as possible to catch that spectacular end sequence. So yeah, I mean, I've been on board, but like for me, the third one has always been a personal favorite. Like I don't know if it's like my absolute favorite, because these films just keep getting better and better, but there was just something about that third film that I really loved. But yeah, like you said, this one was the start of the Mission Impossible films that we know now, like the really super complex without being convoluted. Absolute stunt filled things. Like, I mean, my God, like, watching this again, there's barely a break in the action from the very start, in that agent, I can't remember the agent's name, but, when he's being pursued and, like, he, like, falls off the wall and, like, shoots, like, throws the thing, which blows up into a padded thing for him to land on, and, like, all that sort of over-the-top weirdness, and then from
Yeah,
there
and
it's just
the
non-stop.
jailbreak scene. So they go in to get
Yeah.
Ethan out, and they controlling opening the cells. So at the start, just one prisoner comes out, and so then they're fighting with the guards, and then they start playing Dean Martin, and so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
this scene, and then Ethan wants to get his friend out, so he's like fighting through all the people to get down to the cell where his friend is, and just yeah, and then that's just the opening, and then they have their actual mission at the Kremlin.
Yeah, and you know what I loved about that opening scene, especially the first time I ever saw the film, was that you're wondering, like, why is Ethan in jail? Like, why does... I mean, because he looks different as well. Like, his hair was longer and stuff, and,
Yeah, good hair.
yeah. But yeah, there's that whole mystery element of, like, what's he doing there? Why
I know
is
when
he
I
getting
started this, I
person
was
out?
like, oh, am I meant to remember something about how the last one finished?
Yeah. Well,
'Cause-
no, because they didn't tie
yeah, I
together
know,
at
but I
all.
don't remember them well enough to know if it was something that happened, and later on I realized I was
Oh,
like, oh
look, yeah,
yeah, this is just the thing.
I'm sure you weren't the only one. But yeah, I mean, oh my God, there's just so many things to talk about. But, like, okay, let's go to Dubai. Let's go to the Burj Khalifa. Let's
Yeah.
just...
Also, before we get
Oh
to
yeah,
Dubai,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is the one where Jeremy Renner came along, so that was really fun, and I like the introduction to his character of how he just found the whole thing a bit weird,
Yeah.
and was so what's the word?
I don't know.
Really into details. And
Yeah,
like when
yeah,
stuff happens, he was like to Ethan, he was like, but what do you think they were thinking? And all of
yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of thing. He's really into the details and thinking about stuff, whereas Ethan's just like, oh, I just had a hunch this would work, and just they were shooting, had to stop them, whatever.
And there's that mystery element about Agent Brandt, played by Jeremy Renner, like, as in, because there's all those little sort of things about, like, okay, hang on, is he just an analyst or was he a field agent? Like, there's, I liked how there was that sort of thing, before you sort of, actually find out, like, who he really was and whatnot. So yeah, that was super cool. Yeah, and Simon Pegg's character Benji, I just thought he was given so much more in this film, and the comedy works, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, it was a perfect balance of... I mean, I wouldn't by any means call it an action comedy, because it wasn't, the comedy wasn't that strong, but those light moments really did just make it fun, and yeah, that's what we want in an action film. But yeah, this was really the first one where Cruise did something death-defyingly stupid, which was scaling the Burj Khalifa. Which, that scene, look, I've seen this film maybe 4 or 5 times now. Every single time I watch that scene, I grip my chair, especially when not so much when he's climbing the windows, but the bit where he swings back in and cuts the rope and jumps and kind of misses the window, but then, like, they catch him. But you've got Paula Patton's character, okay, Jane, clutching Brandt, who's clutching Ethan. Like, it's just, oh, that moment always makes me
But
jump
even
out of my
the
seat.
setup to that scene too, when Ethan realizes that's what he has to do and there's no alternative, and the way they're throwing
Yeah,
it to each other, and that scene that you just said when because Benji's been away doing something else,
yeah, yeah.
and he comes back in and he's like, oh well, that was really hard, but I did it.
It's like, oh, what did I miss, when he looks at their faces? And the tension building was fantastic as well. Like, how the masks don't work, and so they've just got to bank on the fact that these villains hadn't ever met each other before, and it's like this sort of 50-50 gamble, which of course pays off. But
Yeah, and
that
for
was so
anyone who hasn't
cool.
seen the film, they set up in a hotel. The two people are meeting each other to exchange diamonds for the codes.
Yeah,
So they set it up, control the lifts, swap the room numbers and
yeah,
everything
yeah,
so that they are meeting one, well, they're meeting both of them separately
yeah,
and
yeah.
got all their gadgets to streamline things together
Which,
and make it work.
yeah, that's. Can we talk about that? Because like the gadgets in this film, I love that they are so unbelievably over the top. I mean, like a contact lens that is a camera transmitter. Like, come on, but. In the context of the film, they feel believable.
Mm,
It's the sort of thing that they just it doesn't feel far fetched. It doesn't feel over the top. It feels like something that they may have actually developed now. But then when you kind of think about it, you're like, no, there's no way that they could possibly. But even the low tech stuff, like when Benji comes in, he's got the fake arm, in the
yeah.
waiter's costume and everything. Like that was so super freaking cool. Like oh my god, there are so many brilliant ideas in this film. So yeah, and I think a lot of the joy in this film comes down to the director Brad Bird, who I believe this was his first foray into live action films because he'd done Ratatouille and The Incredibles and The Iron Giant, like animated films. Like this was the first time that he was, that he did a live action film, and holy shit, what a start! Like,
Yeah.
my god, to come out of the gate doing something like that, that is just extraordinary. So yeah, no, his direction I think was everything that this franchise needed, and yeah, needed to sort of like become what it is now. I think he, in a way, kind of I wouldn't say saved the franchise because, well, aside from the second one, it didn't really need saving. But yeah, no, he definitely made the franchise what it is now, I think. So yeah, I don't know. Like, what else do you want to talk about with this film? Because there's so
Oh,
much.
well, then they go to India
Yeah.
to what is it? This millionaire guy there has a satellite that's
Mm,
needed to upload the codes and control the missile or whatever.
of course he does.
And so they go to this party, and so Jane has to seduce the guy to get
Mm,
the code. And while that's happening, Jeremy Renner has to put on a metal suit
yeah.
and jump down this big tunnel thing, shaft thing that
Yeah.
has a fan at the bottom, and Benji stops the fan and is going to
Mm.
catch him via magnets, which is why he's wearing the suit. And I love that scene because can you
Yep.
just imagine being him sitting on
Mm,
the edge, being told to jump, and he's
mm.
just got to trust that he's not just
I
gonna
know.
slam into.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's another thing. Every time I watch this movie, like, yeah, I know that it's going to catch him, but I'm still like, oh man, like what the willpower it would take to actually make that leap of faith. Because it was a leap of faith, He's like,
Mm,
and particularly when you sort of think, like, you know, they've had like the climbing glove on the Burj Khalifa failed, the mask machine failed. Like, there's been a lot of failures. Like, that's what I mean. There's so many ways this narrative was woven into each scene that just makes every subsequent scene that much better. It was
and the
brilliantly done.
comedy, because once he's done the mission
Mm,
and he needs to get back out, there's a big thing because the bad guys get control, and so
mm.
he's trying to get back out, and the fan comes back on and is blowing him around and all
Yeah.
this. And when he finally makes it out, he's like, "Ugh, next time I'm seducing the rich guy."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was so freaking cool. And I mean, oh my god, how brilliant were the fight scenes in this movie?
Mm.
And particularly the brutality of the one between Paula Patton and Leia Seydoux, I guess her name is pronounced. The two women. Like, man, that was intense,
Mm.
and freaking hats off to them, for pulling off a fight scene that was every bit as intense and brutal as the one with all the guys fighting.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, comments like that.
What?
Oh, they're doing what the men do.
No, no, that's not what I meant. I
Yeah, I
meant
know, but I mean, I watched it and I thought that, but then I'm like, yeah, they're actually letting them fight because,
that's what I meant. Kudos to
yeah.
the director for actually putting that in there and showing that women can do it as good as guys can do. Yeah, I didn't mean for that comment to go in a misogynistic direction. I really didn't.
Also, the way that that fight ends is really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, which we won't talk about, of course. But yeah, no, the scene at the end in the car park, I thought was brilliant. I thought there was just, oh god, there's that's the thing. Like that's what I mean. You feel like you've watched three different movies by the end of it, and there's only like
I know, because when I got to all the stuff, because the Russian part I'd forgotten about, so
right,
that goes on for so long, and then also the cop agent, whatever Russian guy
yeah,
that's after him from the hospital,
yeah,
like that
yeah,
was really there was some really funny moments just from like at the beginning where Ethan's going to jump off the windowsill and then realizes
oh
it's too
yeah,
far and just the banter between them. But
yes,
yeah, where was I going? Oh yeah, so once all the Russia stuff was done and it got to Dubai and I was like, oh yeah, this is the stuff I remember. And I remembered the car park thing at the end. And then I was like, I'm sure that there's that party they go to where she's trying to seduce the guy, but that can't, maybe that's not in this movie because
oh right,
we've
right,
gone so far and had so much stuff happen, and then next thing they're like, we're going to go to India, and I'm like, oh, it was in this movie. There's just
yeah,
so
yeah.
much stuff going on.
Look, I'm the same. I tend to have these films kind of yeah, you because I mean it does sort of feel like just one really long story. But you because remember what I was saying to you when you picked this movie, and I was like, oh, hang on, is this the one where they go in the underwater tank and he's got to hold his breath while he switches the cards around and all that sort of stuff? And but then of course you pointed out that no, because Rebecca Ferguson was in that scene and she's not in it till the next film. But yeah, they do kind of tend to blur, but that's not a bad thing. It just sort of makes the Mission Impossible franchise just this one really big thing to enjoy. So yeah, but yeah, no, I was very very happy to be
Yeah, well, I
rewatching this
mean,
one.
there's a history there, but you don't need to have seen any of the other films to watch this one. You
Exactly.
still could
Yeah,
just
yeah.
come in and just enjoy the fun ride that it is.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think it was because I think the next one and the one after I think might have been a bit more kind of serialized because there was the villain whose name I can't remember now, that pasty looking guy, who was a recurring villain in it, and I can't remember his name now. Nor can I remember who the actor was, so let's just forget about it. But yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, this film you could actually watch it without having seen other ones. So yeah, do you have like a absolute one standout favorite scene from this film? If you had
Oh,
to think about
I
it,
just no. I think it has to just be climbing the building.
yeah,
The
it's
obvious answer,
it's
because
really
that's
difficult to
just
beat that,
crazy
isn't it?
stuff.
It is crazy stuff, and like yeah, like I said, especially the fact that like he actually did it. I mean, yeah, sure, he was supported by wires and stuff, but Lane, played by Sean Harris. That's the villain that I'm trying to think of in who comes into it in the next one. Yeah, no, look, I Burj Khalifa all the way. Yeah, that scene is just freaking nuts, and it really set the bar for every time now for them to try and top it with each movie. But yeah, which they kind of like. I didn't think the motorbike leap in Dead Reckoning was anywhere near as awesome as the Burj Khalifa scene. Like they, were sort of making this motorbike leap out to be the biggest thing you're ever going to see in Mission Impossible. And I remember seeing it and thinking,
Well, I
yeah,
think it was more a big thing that he actually did it.
yeah, I know. Even hanging onto the plane as it's taking off, I thought was way more intense than the motorbike leap. But which scene did you think was more nail biting, Burj Khalifa or the plane hanging onto a plane as it's taking off?
Oh well, I've only seen that once, but I don't
Didn't
know.
mean to
It's
put you on
hard
the
because
spot.
they're different things. One is like the
Yeah.
speed and power and all of that, and the other one is like that's really high.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd lean towards Burj Khalifa because, like, yeah, sure, he hung onto a plane, he dropped off a helicopter, he did all those things, but that Burj Khalifa scene had so much to it. You know, like there was first of all the climbing thing and the glove not working, and like, oh shit, okay, like, you know, then there's the whole like trying to cut the glass and trying to figure out a way to get into the building. Then there's the third element of like having to get back down super quickly, and like I said, that absolute gut wrenching scene where we're going into the window. So I think that one just sort of had more to it. Like yeah, it was probably more fun. So yeah, no, I like Ghost Protocol. It's a really good film. You did well choosing that one. Anything else you wanted to say about this one, or that you can think of that you may have written down?
Um. Oh, I did write. There was one really cool camera thing during that climbing scene where he notices the sandstorm coming and the reflection, and just the way the camera sort of then spins around his head and
Yeah,
then shows the sandstorm, and then he looks to it. That's
yeah,
just cool. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. That was
And
really
that
cool.
just the cool continuation thing that he kept the goggles from doing that climb, and then when he gets stuck in the sandstorm later, he's like, "Oh, I still have these goggles.
Yeah, 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 exactly. That's what I
Came
mean.
in
Yeah,
handy."
there's a lot of little elements that just sort of like, yeah, play later on and stuff. It was, yeah, really brilliant writing. So yeah, no, that is a really
Oh,
standout film.
and Simon Pegg in the opening with the prison break. It was just a really funny opening with him doing stuff, and then the when he opens the door, so the prisoner attacks the guard, and he just kind of mouths sorry to the screen,
Yeah,
watching the guard getting attacked.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, like I said, yeah, the comedy just worked so goddamn well in this film. So cool. All right. Which one do you want to talk about next, as far as our without consent films?
You can pick.
I reckon we'll go Crybaby.
All right.
All right. So this was a film that I don't even really know if I ever had any intention of watching it. To be honest, I don't know. It just I sort of looked at the poster and thought, yeah, Johnny Depp in a '50s kind of look, like some chick in purple. I don't know. I didn't get excited about it being a John Waters film because this is the first John Waters film I've ever seen.
I haven't seen many because his films. I mean, I haven't looked recently. I'm sure it's different now, but back in the day, it was kind of impossible to find his films. And so I got to see his more mainstream ones like Serial Mom and Cecil B. Demented. But yeah, his weirder ones that I really wanted to see were just nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. Like I know who the guy is. I know all about him. I know the controversy that Pink Flamingos caused. I know lots of things about that film. I actually surprised myself that I'd never seen one of his films because it was one of those things, you know, you think you know a director so well and then you look and it's like, holy shit, I haven't actually seen his work. So, you know, but you picked it and I was like, all right, fine. So the synopsis of this film: a prim and proper schoolgirl goes against her grandmother's wishes when she dates a motorcycle riding juvenile delinquent. So yeah, sat down yesterday to watch it, and I think it was maybe 10 minutes into the film, maybe not even that much. I turned to Kylie and I said, I am so fascinated by what's going on right now. This film blew my mind.
I had fun watching it yesterday, just knowing, like, I was looking at it as in Dan is seeing all this for the first time. And
Yeah,
so I was watching that as thinking about someone watching it for the first time.
I fucking loved this movie. Like, oh my god, okay, the performances in this film were so beautifully over the top. That picnic scene, or not picnic scene, sorry, the blanket nighttime scene where all the couples are making out and everything, and he turns to the girl and he's like, kiss me hard. It's just like, I lost it. I was laughing so hard. But there are just so many moments throughout the film that crack me up because of the deliciously over the top performances. But it was one of those things where they just suited the film. They suited
it's
it.
the style of the
exactly. Like, this was a film that is kind of hard to, you can't really sort of criticize it too much because that's how it was meant to be.
It's like the opposite of Yorgos with his deadpan delivery.
Yeah. So I don't even know how to talk about this film. It looks incredible. Like, the production design and everything was amazing. Like, Kylie and I went to rate it on Letterboxd, and I gave it a 4 because I think by the end of it, it wasn't perfect for me. It was kind of, sometimes maybe it kind of delved into its weirdness a little bit too much. And that I also thought the main thing for me was that I felt it lost steam in the third act. Like, the first 2 acts were just so hyperkinetic and everything. And the dude, I can't remember the character's name now, but he's going to see Allison, and there's a string of people, and they're doing a
bunny hop.
Yeah, the sort of right leg in, left leg, forward, back, hop, 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 all the way to her house. It's what the fuck? There's just so many wild things going on, but then I kind of thought the third act, just sort of fizzled a little bit for me. But look, that's not to say that, of course, it ruined the film in any sort of way, really. But no, I can't remember where I was going with this. Oh yeah, I said to Kyla, so I rated it 4 stars, and she went 3.5, and it's like she said to me, she doesn't sort of pick up on things like I do, like production design and stuff, like what it would take to get all of those 50s cars and, to design all of those costumes and hair and makeup and, all of that stuff that went into the film. So, yeah, I really was just absorbing all of that, But this was your choice, so you talk about the film, and I will shut up. Sorry, I just
you're the one watching for the first time, but I don't It's interesting you said that about you guys having the different things, because I have another different one, which is just, I love 50s style.
Right.
So I was looking at all the cars and going, oh, nice cars, but I wasn't thinking of it in a production design way of getting it all. I was just thinking about how pretty everything looks, or some of the clothes they were wearing or whatever.
Yeah.
So but I don't know. I saw this movie way back in the day, because this is peak Johnny Depp time. It's it's so hot in this. So of course I just completely jumped on it when I was young, and that was back in the day when it was Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt. They were kings of the cinema. So but and lots of cool characters, lots of weird stuff. I mean, when I saw this I was pretty young, so I was just starting to get into weird stuff, so I was like, this is pretty different.
Is it ever?
But really cool. It's like a musical, so there's a lot of songs in it, and I really like the songs. And Amy Locane's voice is really, it's the kind of really sort of girly kind of voice is really different and interesting. So I don't know, just so much fun. I've just always thought this was really fun. So I'm glad I was able to introduce you to it.
Oh my god, I would own this movie in a heartbeat. Speaking of the musical numbers, that was one thing that I really appreciated was, okay, so if you know how to play a guitar, sometimes when you watch an actor on screen who's miming, playing guitar, there's so many times you can tell they're not actually playing what is coming out of your speakers, and it can be a little bit distracting. And I know that sounds very snobbish and everything, but it was really cool this time around to have an actor who is actually a musician, and watching him play, it's like, oh my god, wow, you can actually. Well, I could tell that he was playing, the actual song. I was like, oh my god, that's just, it's kind of refreshing. I've got to talk about Kim Maguire, who played Hatchet Face. So yeah, there is a character in this film, Mona Hatchet Face Malnarovsky. There you go. And as soon as she was on screen the first time, I was like, oh my god, what is that? And Kylie said she could be the sister of Dale Cobble, as in Longlegs, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually seeing a resemblance there. So it turns out this woman is actually a lawyer and author, and she's only done only just a few films, but she's kind of cast because she is extremely weird looking. But yeah, my god, she was such a freaking freaky looking thing. But did you know that this movie has a Deadly Prey connection?
No.
Okay, so in the courtroom scene where they say to her, something along the lines of, you couldn't, your parents wouldn't even be here for you, and her dad wheels in the iron lung with her mum in it and everything. That dad is none other than Troy Donahue, who played Michelson in Deadly Prey. The businessman who kept coming to visit Colonel Hogan and is like, who's basically financing the whole mercenary operation.
I know.
Oh, come on. You love Deadly Prey. Well, the guy in the business suit. And, he meets his demise when he is driving along and he sees Jamie's dad lying on the road, and Jamie's dad gets up and is like holding a gun and, is like, gives him his whole speech before he shoots him and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't even freaking recognize him. And then at the end credits, when I found out that was Troy Donahue, I'm like, no. And I actually rewound it back because this was only 4 years after Deadly Prey had been made. And so I went, but you can't recognize him because he's got kind of heavy stubble and his hair was, slicked up into this weird sort of a twist. And I paused it at one point and I was like, I guess I can kind of see Michelson in there. But yeah, that was absolutely crazy to find that out. So yeah, there you go. This movie actually had a Deadly Prey connection. Yeah, fun fact. But no, I mean, Willem Dafoe was in it for one brief blink and you'll miss it kind of moment. So, I mean, that was cool. But I loved seeing Iggy Pop in there as well. He had quite a big role. So that was really cool. But yeah, look, overall, I loved it. I would easily watch it again and again. I thought the style was fantastic. The performances were just, they made the film. There's actually already so many things in my brain that I'm like, I really can't wait to see that again. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, no, that was a good choice. Yeah, highly recommend this movie to absolutely everyone who's after something a little bit weird. Actually, yeah. Kylie said it best. If you're in the mood for a fun, funny, and weird movie, then this is the movie for you. I did say a lot of what the fucks and oh my gods, but in a good way. Yeah, and can confirm she did. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to?
I don't think so.
No? All right. Well, in that case, let's move on to the movie that I chose for you, which is a film that I kind of have a suspicion that I saw it in the cinemas when it came out. I don't know. I really feel like I did see it in the cinema. But that is a movie from 1987 called Summer School, which Mark Harmon plays a gym teacher who is about to go on vacation, gets roped into teaching a class of delinquents, summer English, I think it was. Yeah. And of course he's just as big a slacker as everybody else in the class, but through bonding together, they wind up learning lots about each other, and he becomes a better person. They become better people. Everybody lives happily ever after. There you go. So, yeah. Now, this is a comfort film for me. This is one of those films that I've lost count of how many times I've seen it, but I will happily. I could go watch it again right now, and be completely happy. So yeah, it's 5 stars all the way from me. I noticed it wasn't quite as enjoyable for you, but what did you think of it?
No, well, first of all, I know Mark Harmon from NCIS,
Yeah,
so it took me a really long time to get used to him as a young man.
right, right.
Because I don't know if I've seen him in anything else. It's just been in passing, and I don't remember anything. So it's just NCIS
See, I
where
was the
he's
opposite.
much
I
older.
knew him solely from this, and so when he was in NCIS, not that I really watched that too much, but I was always like, "Hey, it's Freddie Shoop."
Oh, I've seen 3 films. Oh,
Right, right.
okay. He was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
Mm.
Natural Born Killers,
Well, I'm pretty sure he also played Ted Bundy in
and yes, he did. I've heard about that.
yeah. I can't remember what the film was called, but I'm pretty sure I saw him in it.
The Deliberate Stranger.
Deliberate Stranger. That was it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I've I've seen lots of films that he was in, like Natural Born Killers. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. But no, this is always going to be my most favorite of his
I
everything.
think my thing with it's a mood thing, I think,
Mm.
and my adult brain kicking in a bit because I know a lot of people don't have this opinion,
Mm.
but at times those kids are like complete assholes, and that just I can't completely love it because it's not just them mucking around. Like they do some pretty terrible stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'd be so
Yeah.
pissed off, and I'd just be out of there if I was him and these kids did that.
These kids. But actually, that was actually, I think, one of the reasons we watched Dangerous Minds was because we watched this film first, and then we are like, let's watch some more movies with, fish out of water teachers. But I think that was intentional, though, of course, because there is, of course, the moment where the kids are demanding too much from him, and that's where his character has a turning point.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like before that.
Yeah, yeah, right. But did you love? I mean, yeah, it's a fan favorite. Chainsaw and Dave. Did you love
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
obviously, with all the
yeah,
horror movie stuff and
yeah, yeah,
reenacting scene, or not reenacting, but acting horror scenes, like
yeah,
with the rabbits at the
yeah.
thing they were at.
I love that line where he says to someone that his name's he goes by Chainsaw, and oh yeah, that's right. And Freddy, oh yeah, it's when they're first getting
Roll call.
introduced, yeah. And Freddy's like, as in Black and Decker, and he's like, no, as in Texas Chainsaw. No, sorry, as in Texas Massacre. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I love that line so much I can't even quote it properly. But yeah, no, look,
I did read someone said on their letterboxd review that if they had realized that Shawnee Smith would go on to be in the Saw franchise, they would have been hanging around her instead of the Italian
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
That's
course.
the youngest that's what I was going to check actually.
Mm.
If that's the earliest thing I've seen from Shawnee Smith, because
Oh,
I
okay.
think it might be a new
Mm.
one from, let me just
Um,
put her things in
but no,
order.
I thought all of the characters were just so different and unique, and uh,
Yeah, because I had seen her in The Stand, and that was in '94. So,
right, right. I really loved how I can't remember his name, but there's that character who, on Freddy's first day, he's like, he just gets up and he's like, I'm going to use the bathroom, and he's like,
mm,
okay, no problem at all, and and then you don't see that character again until the end of the film, where he like turns up for the exam, and it's like, hang on a second, because of course I've seen the film so many times, so I was watching Kylie's reaction, and she laughed so fucking hard in that pit because she's like, oh my god, I completely forgot about this guy, and he's been gone the entire movie. And then
mm.
I mean, look, mild spoilers are probably okay for a film like this, aren't they? Like, we don't really, it's not anything too substantial, is it? Look, I'm going to say it anyway. And then, of course, the fact that when they do the English exam at the end or whatever, and he gets the highest score out of everybody, even though he wasn't even there for the entire film, I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. But no, I love, there's so many things.
And the opening credits, opening scenes over the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Courtney Thorne-Smith. I haven't thought about her for a million years.
Right,
and then like just showed her and someone else just sitting down. I'm like, is that Courtney Thorne-Smith? And then her name came up, and I was like, it is.
Yeah, there was quite a few people in this film that who else? I've gone blank now. Amy Stock, who was Freddie Shoup's girlfriend who ditched him when he had to stay back and teach. She was Missy from the Bill and Ted films. So there was a few like people in it. And yeah, it was kind of a shame because Kirstie Alley, like I always thought she was really cool in the film and everything, but then later in life, of course, like she turned into this right-wing nutjob extremist on social media and stuff, and was like, it turns out she was actually a really vile, disgusting person. So but it's one of those things that I don't let it cloud my my enjoyment of the film in any sort of way. Probably worth mentioning, I noticed that the Italian chick whose name was whatever, you haven't seen the Austin Powers films, have you?
Nope.
No, because she went on to play a minor character called Alotta Vagina in the first Austin Powers film, which I'm going to make you watch it one day. But yeah, no, like I said, yeah, it's a comfort film. It is one of those films I can watch again and again and again and again, and I'm glad you didn't hate it.
Summer vibes.
Exactly, yeah, it's really good fun. So yeah, I'm just glad you didn't dislike it. I mean, you gave it 3.5. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. Well, shall we end it there for everyone who doesn't want spoilers and go and jump into the sealed section? So, all right. To everyone who does not want to listen to spoilers, thank you very, very much for sticking around with us. It's probably been like, oh my god, 2.5 hours. Wow. So yes. We've got to talk about what movies we're watching next week. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the mutual film that we have decided on is a movie that I have not seen in a long time, but oh my freaking god.
I haven't seen it in a long time either.
I had such an obsession with this film like you wouldn't believe back in the day. And that is the horror comedy Idle Hands with Devon Sawa, Jessica Alba, Seth Green, a whole bunch of really cool people. And I am so keen to jump back into that film because, it's been way too long. So, and then we've got another edition of Hit or Shit, which we pick an actor or director and we pick a couple of films from their filmography that we've not seen, so we can determine whether or not they are worth your time or absolute dumpster fires. So, who have you picked for our actor this time?
Well, I'm continuing my 310 to Yuma love. We're going to watch Ben Foster films.
We are going to watch Ben Foster films, and so which one have you picked for me?
Well, I don't know how this could go either way because the average rating is not the best. However, this movie, besides Ben, has Giovanni Ribisi, J.K. Simmons, and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And is written by the guy who wrote Prisoners.
Oh, okay, right.
It's called Contraband from
thank
2012.
God you didn't pick the same movie I did. Okay, Contraband. All right, let me just make a note of that. Cool. Well, I like the fact that it's got a mixed rating because, of course, that's going to lean in towards our hit or shit thing.
Could go either way.
Exactly.
But we've got a good cast at least for the promising start.
Yeah.
And writer, although I haven't seen. He's only written 3 films, I think, and I have only seen Prisoners. But Prisoners is really amazing, so
Right.
it's a good start too.
Well, the film I've chosen for you also has a really
For
amazing.
both of us.
Oh, sorry, yes, for both of us, because I've not seen this. But this is a film I have been so goddamn keen to see for many, many years. Mainly because of the cast, but I think at the time I found out about it, I had a massive crush on Olivia Wilde. And I found out about a scene with her that I wanted to see anyway. No, so this film also has pretty mixed reviews. It's got an average of 3.3 on Letterboxd. Most people,
Oh, that's pretty high.
well, most people leaning towards a 3. But we've got Emile Hirsch, Bruce Willis, Amanda Seyfried, whatever, Justin Timberlake, who is playing a character named Frankie. Ben Foster, of course. Oh my God, so many people. Amber Heard. Anton Yelchin. The cast in this is massive, and the film is called Alpha Dog.
Oh no! This got mentioned when on a podcast I was listening to of the trilogy of Ben Foster.
Yeah.
Psycho characters was this 3:10 to Yuma, and what was the third one? I can't remember now.
Right. But this is actually based on a true story about some teenager or something who got kidnapped and murdered through a drug deal gone wrong or something like that. And apparently there was a big controversy about how the family didn't want this film to be made and all this sort of stuff. So, I'm actually like really, really keen to find out about this film at long last. So, that's what you're going to be watching, and I'm going to be watching. So, all right. So, that being
Harry
said...
Dean Stanton.
Yes, he's also...
You mention Amber Heard and you don't mention him?
Well, I also didn't mention David Thornton, and did I mention... Oh, Lucas Haas is in it, Dominic Swain is in it. Look...
Lucas Haas?
Yeah.
He's in my movie too.
No!
Yeah.
Seriously?
So, hit or shit for him as well.
Wow, all right. So next week we've got a Ben Foster, Lucas Haas... double feature coming at you. Wow. Alright, so stay tuned. In a fortnight we're going to be coming to you with Idle Hands, Alpha Dog, Contraband. It is going to be arguably the greatest podcast that has ever been recorded. It'll easily be the best podcast that you'll be listening to at that moment. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Now, Frankenheimer, I don't know about you, but I got nothing spoilery for the sealed section. I mean...
Yeah, movies didn't really have it this time. I mean, there's Jeremy Renner stuff in Mission Impossible, but I mean, that's not much, so...
There's Wonder Dog at the end of Summer School, but, that's hardly really worth, doing an entire section for. So, this is going to be the first edition of Frankie Danky Doodle Dandy. What is our podcast called again? I'm losing the plot right now. Dan and Frankie go to Hollywood, not Frankle Dankle Doodle Dandy. Although, that's not a bad name for...
Frankle Dangle.
Frankle Dankle Doodle Dandy. Yeah, I love it. The first edition of this wonderful podcast where we do not do a sealed section. So, yes, I apologize to everyone who was like, oh my God, I can't wait to find out spoilers about everything. We got nothing. So, yeah, we're going to end it here. We are going to say farewell to all of you wonderful people. We're going to thank you for sticking around through 9 hours or however long it's been of us rambling on about weird things. We're going to see you in 2 weeks' time. Stay safe, watch lots of movies, and bye for now.